Oh, where'd you just go on?
Yep, we're going, and then we'll ask everybody if they can hear us as standard procedure.
All right.
And then I get
Now
emails from
Bibles.
YouTube that are like, "Your account's live. Is that you?"
Oh, really?
It's kind of nice. They're like, "Hey, you're live. Just heads up."
That Mike?
Can you hear him?
Oh, I
Yeah.
see YouTube. I'm watching the. I have OBS, and then I have the YouTube stream, and then I have the comments, and then I have the free conference thing. So I'm like, every time I'm on a show, I'm like looking all over the place. Last time I was on with
Yeah.
Devin, he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just doing a lot."
I see my friend Giancarlo has been patiently waiting for us to start.
Oh gosh. Wait, you didn't tell all your friends not to watch for safety?
Lost crank signal. Is that the fuel tech joke again? All
What is
right.
Geotech not?
Well, I guess you guys are scope creep racing, right? That's the whole. You are in those parentheses.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
The two of us.
So we have Brendan and Harry, and you guys want to. I mean, I went over a bit of the intro, but I'm sure you can summarize yourselves better than I can.
Sure. I can start
Go
with
for it,
me.
sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my Omni that I've been running in Lemons. This is the third year now that I've been running it in Lemons. I've been racing Lemons for 7 years. Then I've also started running like local Pennsylvania hill climbs with the car. I met Brendan, what, 4, 5 years? No, I guess 6 years ago, probably now.
Yeah.
I bought a dirt bike off him and walked into a shop and was like, holy cow, this is amazing. And then he learned that I do SolidWorks and stuff. So we became friends and started helping each other out with projects. And then I tried to get him into Lemons racing, and we ended up building a car, which is the Aspen. And so that can segue into Brendan.
Yeah. I guess I've been racing lemons for what? 3,
4.
4 years. That the white car up on the shelf there is the Aspen. We built it as our first car together, and then the team outgrew a single car. We traded some ownership in the Aspen for the Omni that we found in the barn, and I guess now we're a multi-car team and currently building that blue E90 that's behind me for some other series. I would say, but still amateur endurance racing.
And then what? I think were you racing today or was that yesterday? You sent me a picture.
I raced Saturday and Sunday. So that was at a
Nice.
local Hillclimb. So that's the weatherly one. So it's one with the jump, which is the cool one in my opinion, because there's a jump.
That's
So I raced
there's also the one of Kurt going over that right from the
Yeah,
front view.
yeah. Kurt's a wheelman and sends it every time. I have to work my way up to sending it a little bit. So I ran Saturday morning. I only ran till noon because then I had to leave to go to a wedding. And I only got 2 runs in. On my second run, I had a fuel delivery problem. The hose popped off in the cell, so it shut off in the mid-run. So I only got 1 run in on Saturday. And then I got 3 runs in on Sunday. And by the third run, I was starting to push a little bit harder, and that's where I got that little bit of air. Had I had 1 more run, I probably would have pushed a lot harder and gotten a lot more air. But there's always next year.
Yeah, and
It's
then
slow to it's slow to get a lot of air, but it's fun and it makes cool things. So.
and then I remember, can you go over what all is done to the Omni? It's not like just a regular Omni anymore.
Sure. Yeah. So at this point, both of our cars, the Aspen and the Omni, are skeletons of what they used to be. The whole front subframe of the Omni is out of the Chevy Cobalt with then a 2.4 Ecotec instead of the 2.2 Ecotec that would have come in the Cobalt normally. And then now I'm on Viking double adjustables all the way around. So I machined the front uprights and the Viking strut mounts to accept Fox body, like Fox body SN95, something like that, Viking struts in the front. And they're just made my own mounts in the back or whatever.
I mean, that's a good move. There's plenty of Fox body stuff laying around.
Yeah, I need to pick up another pair of like cheap because I have a spare for every single thing on the car, or I can buy it at AutoZone for every part on the car other than the struts because they're so expensive. So what I need to do is I need to pick up a cheap set of like Fox body, just generic coilovers for like a couple $100 just to throw in the trailer to have a spare for it. And then, yeah, I've since clearanced it to fit 275s all the way around. So you can see that I cut and rewelded in new arches, and then I like custom made tie rods and stuff. So I can turn lock to lock at full compression with a 275 on the front of the car.
Nice.
So at the Hillclimbs, I run 275 slicks. For the endurance racing, I run 245s. And then there's a lot of modifications that go into just making the car comfortable and successful to run flat out for 8 hours straight. So just stupid little things. Like you can see I have these like mirrors, wherever we are, I have these mirrors on the front of the car. So that when you're like coming into a corner, you're already looking at the apex, and you have that mirror to see if somebody's dive bombing you up the inside or not.
Nice.
So it just makes it, you're more comfortable with who's around you. The wiper linkages, I used to have problems that they would pop off because they were those little plastic like socket bushings. So I rebuilt all those with Heim joints. I moved the seat like 6 inches over to the right, so you just have more room around you and you're a little comfier in the car. We have pool suit systems. So we have a shirt that has like 50 feet of capillary tubing stitched to it, and you pump ice water through it to keep you cool in the car. Helmet blowers pumping fresh air into your helmet. Drink systems. So I'll drink like a gallon of water in my 2-hour stint in the car. So like all these things just to make it easier and more comfortable to run the car flat out nonstop for 8 hours straight. And then Brendan can go over the Aspen build, which is arguably even more Frankenstein than the Omni.
Yeah, I think so. The Omni was after we learned that everything in a machine shop or custom fab is not really the best when you need parts in northern Connecticut on a Sunday. So the Aspen is like 76 Dodge Aspen coupe. The front suspension's all Panther chassis, Crown Vic with like QA1 coilovers eventually, because I kept blowing out cop car strut.
They do that factory. They blow the strut through the hood.
Yeah, they don't like. I don't know. I don't get it. But it's like factory A-arms in the front, but I machined outer assembled dirt track magnesium hubs on it, so it has 1-ton truck bearings in it, which hold up great. I've never replaced a wheel bearing after, I don't know, 10 or 12,000 miles on just like giving it the beans. So the motor's a 2-liter Ecotec out of FS Cobalt, the turbo motors. Made it to a Muncie M22 close ratio 4-speed, like, you know, a Corvette essentially, but it was a fresh build. And then it's got a Winters quick change magnesium rear in it, still on leaf springs in the back. So it's like the weirdest thing created. It's got some Fairmont or Zephyr aluminum bumpers on it. You can kind of see they're not like, they were lighter than Aspen steel bumpers. They're their trick race car parts. And I don't know. It's got way too many custom parts on it. It's not easy as Harry's car to keep moving, but it's kind of just cool for being a, you know, Malaise era Dodge.
And the wheels.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. And the wheels are Harry and Doug. I made them and we machined them at their place. So they're like billet centers with they're like true that we made. So we can get a 17 by 11. And we're currently working on an 18 by 11 to move up to some better endurance tires. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of everything.
Did you guys make the transmission adapter, or was that an off-shelf item?
So oddly enough, there's some midget series. I'm going to get this wrong, like the winged cars, dirt track cars out in the Midwest, and they run Ecotecs with like 4 speeds with 2 gears deleted out of them, so they have high and low. So on Jegs, there was a bell housing that it was expensive for what it was, but like an SFI bell housing that bolted right onto an Ecotec. So it was like meant to be.
And then
it had an AR5 that didn't. So after the AR5 went, we were like, let's put one of those old school force.
External linkage, right?
Yeah, a little annoying, but once you get it, it's good.
That's quite a conglomerate, that thing.
Yeah.
Those Winters quick changes are cool. Like, do you have a bunch of the ratios?
Yeah, I have a bunch of ratios from like 55 to mid 400s, but we've kind of like settled on like, I think it's got a 4. It's a weird number. It's got like a 422 in it or something right now, and it seems to be like the universal.
Good for track, or at least how fast that
Good.
is.
Exactly. Like I'd like to run something with higher top speed, but then the problem, it's got a 220 first gear in it, and around the paddock and getting on a trailer and all that, like you just smoke the clutch.
It's lame.
Doing everything. Yeah, so we had to find like a happy. It is. It'll do like 130 on the limiter.
Nice.
Good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if we ever go to like Road America or something that has a longer straight, you'll probably have to touch that. I've never touched fifth gear in my car on track, so I'm good. Like I still have a whole other gear left if I ever should need it. But most of the tracks we've run at so far have pretty similar. I think he runs a little faster down the straight than me. Like you're like what, probably mid 120s at the end of the straights, and I'm usually
at New Jersey most turbo sizing they run out of steam at like, I don't know. I'll give it 6,200, but I think they run out of steam at 5,800. So like you're kind of just not accelerating hard, and that's about 126, 800 or 900 RPMs left before red line. So that'll be fixed here shortly with a little bit billet wheel and a ported housing and everything. So hopefully we can flow some more air up top, get it to pull to the, I don't know, mid 130s.
The other one was, I was gonna say, so you Harry recently painted his and whatnot. It was like a multicolor. How many windows did it have?
Well, so before I painted it, it was the original paint. It was gray everywhere. Then I kind of like was doing this thing where every year I'd change something visually on the car so that like I can go back through and look at pictures and know like what year a picture was from. So I added stripes to it one year. Then we had some issues where there was another Dodge Omni that raced with us at Lemons one year, and we kept getting black flagged. And we were like, the first two were for passing under yellow. And we were like, okay, sometimes you can pass under yellow without like realizing you passed under yellow. And then we got black flagged for going 4 off. And we were like, we certainly know we didn't go 4 off. Like we would know if we put all 4 tires off. And so then we went and talked to them later in the day, and it turns out they'd been mixing us up with a silver Dodge Omni that was 666, and I was 63, a gray Dodge.
Oh, geez.
So like, all right, I need to paint this thing something more recognizable. And I'd always kind of seen like a baby blue in my head, and then I actually was like scrolling Marketplace and found like a vintage like tractor trailer that was pink and blue. And I was like, oh, that's incredible. That's the paint scheme
I need that blue color.
So then I painted this with Sherwin-Williams Finest House paint, and it's worked out pretty well. Everyone notices the car a lot more.
Yeah, I would
Brendan's
say.
car has gone through 4 paint schemes.
What was it? Gray, red, all gray, then red, and then yellow and white, and now the white, black, and red. But we realized there was a pattern. Every time we would win, and that seemed to get us another win. So like now, if we win again, I got to paint the car again. It's not fun, but it seems like a good luck. So
Lemons wants you to do like silly themes and stuff.
Yeah.
We're weird enough cars that they don't really care that we
Yeah.
don't heavily theme. Like if you show up in a BMW or a Miata,
You better have a toilet on the hood, yeah.
yeah, that's exactly right. So the Aspen was briefly the Liberty Mutual car, was the yellow paint scheme. And then before that, Dodge actually made like a NASCAR Richard Petty like kit car version thing of it that had some like weird like chin spoilers and stuff. So the red was kind of a play on that, was its first paint scheme after the all primer gray, that is.
yeah.
I like
I
that
think
you
when it was
chose
up in your dyno, it was yellow, I think, Matt.
No, it was red, I think, wasn't it?
What's it, red? Matt's like, I don't remember. I've seen
I
some
don't
other
remember.
cars.
I know we've had Harry's on 2 or 3 times, but I don't remember.
No, it was definitely red because it was when you first turboed the 2.4.
Yes.
You gave us that turbo that you had for the Kia. And we
disco
smashed
potato
it on like
I remember
a week
that
before
now.
a race and
Yeah.
brought it up, and it never
And
ran quite right.
the ECU is like extremely archaic, and like we couldn't get everything we wanted, and we're like, good luck, sir.
Well, and then you probably never even heard the follow up. It like split cylinder in 2 straight down the middle.
Harry
like
did
cylinder
say
to
that,
cylinder.
yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And then like after messing with it like one more race, somebody was finally like, oh hey, by the way, 2.4s, like you can't turbo them and live in endurance racing. And I was like, where were you 2 races ago? Had a reason other than they make way too much torque at low RPM, just with the I guess the cam phasing and everything. So we probably would have been better off with like a GT35 on it, real laggy than that little disco potato.
Shift the power band up, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I got like a Chinese disco potato, like a 28 RS. I think. What did you, Harry, yours makes like 160 or 170 horsepower, right?
It made like 170 at the wheels when we dynoed it that time. But then there was a team that was running that was before the first race, because we had supposedly gotten an ECU with a tune on it. It wouldn't rev over like 4,000 RPMs. We discovered the night before we were supposed to leave the first race. So then you put it on the dyno for us at like midnight and just smashed 30 different things at a time until it would rev over 4,000 RPMs.
I remember that, and I still don't know what we had to change, but
it
did
revved,
like 1,000 things.
It idled a little funny and stuff. And there was a team there that had a 2.4 and a Miata, and they're like, oh, like we spent a lot of time dyno tuning this and perfecting the tune for endurance racing. So I convinced them to give me that tune, and we just punched in, and that's what I've run since. So I have no clue what it makes. And then like after I probably already had like, I don't know, almost 10,000 race miles on it, I checked the compression, and one cylinder is like a little low in compression. So I don't know if that's always been like that or if it's getting
Not
worse.
bad, but for all that
it'd be
abuse.
it'd be interesting to re-dyno it at some point and see what it's making.
I was
I'd
surprised.
like to build a head for it.
I was surprised how much power and torque it made. I was like, wow.
The 2.4s are fantastic. I mean, I have no complaints with that. I probably have closer to 15,000 race miles on it now. And I did a timing belt on it once because I felt like I should do something for this poor thing that just lives flat out all the time.
Yeah.
But other than that, it has given me zero problems.
Well, I mean,
I haven't built a head for it yet, because I feel like I'll build a head and then I'll start having all kinds of problems.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
I want more RPM out of it is the problem. Like there's several places on track where like I'll just sit on the limiter for a few seconds because it seems easier to do that than to shift up and shift right back down again.
Yeah, and have it like die or whatever.
Yeah, if I could get another even like 500 RPMs out of it and just be able to run out of gear a little bit more, it'd be nice.
Did you I don't think you did any modifications to the engine other than like trying to strip down electronics and everything.
Yeah, so that was like my goal of this build, was to touch everything on the car before I started playing with the engine. So I put a quaif in the transmission. I've done a lot of suspension work. I've now done some aero work. I've touched driver comfort. I've done everything I can to the car except for the engine. And now I'm finally at the point where everything else is sorted. So I have to kind of decide if I want to touch the engine or whether I just want to leave well enough alone and have success with reliability.
We should put like the gold light box I have on it and LS coils and craziness.
Can that do VVT?
Yes.
It can.
Is yours just on off or is it PWM?
I think Brendan, you would know better than me.
I think they're just on off, to be honest.
A lot of them are just on off,
wrong.
surprisingly.
Yeah.
Because they do call them solenoids or whatever, don't they? I feel like that would insinuate that it's an on-off.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, they have VVT. A friend of mine, Felix Hamilton, puts them on 2JZ or 2JZ style inline 6-cylinders that have VVT, and he runs them.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, if I ever were to build a head, I've gone back and forth if I would keep the VVT. Like, I love the torque production that engine makes. I basically want to keep the VVT. But then when you talk to guys about building them, they all tell you to put a 2.2 head on it and get rid of the VVT because they're trying to spin them to like 9. I'm like, man, I just want to spin to like 7.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can keep the VVT. I just need to find the right combo there.
Yeah, and those dirt track cars, they don't care about the low end torque. Like they get back and they keep the thing above 7,000 RPMs the whole time.
Yeah, they mostly have bike motors that they're just limitering to 12 and standing on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to start reading off some questions. We answered this kind of, but he asked, what Ecotec do you have in it and why did you pick it?
Why we picked the Ecotec is because before I met Brendan, he was doing like off-road buggy racing, and the Ecotecs are really popular in the off-road buggies. I guess, did you already have that 2.2 lying around?
Yeah, the 2.2 was in the 2-seat car I had, right?
Yeah, you had already pulled that out to put the 2-liter in it, maybe? We had the 2.2 lying around that was first in the Aspen, and we thought we were like being clever showing up to Lemons with an Ecotec because we figured if they can run like in front of CVTs on an off-road buggy and just sit at 7,000 all day long, they'll do well in endurance. And we got to Lemons, they're like, oh, cool, another car with an Ecotec in it. Like, we get it. These things are reliable.
I've heard that they're super stout. They're just reliable as all hell.
Yeah, I mean, they're from that same generation as like the LS as far as Chevy's engineering or whatever. Like,
the smart people.
I was having success with the 6-cylinders. Like, we've had success with the 4-cylinders. The world's had success with the LS. Like, seems like that era of engine development in GM is just on it.
Yeah, I think they don't have as much potential as like say a series, but I think if you're looking to make 200 crank horsepower and run the and never worry about it, I think they're great for that. It seems like kind of like LS World. When you see the guy that has with 15 grand dumped in it, they last like 2 days.
Yeah, oil
In my
pressure
opinion.
issues, or it's not any faster than a $240 sludge pup.
Exactly.
The more you care about it, the more failures come your way.
Yeah, the motor that's was like underwater in my off-road buggy, raced a couple races in the Aspen. Was in the Omni at first. I can't even remember.
No, I went straight to a 2.4 in the Omni.
You the 2.4, yeah.
Yeah. And the other beauty. Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and then the 2-liter Aspen just came along when what was it? LK who was dumping them? 2-liter crate motors that came over from the United.
Oh, like unused?
Local shutdown. Well, they were brand new with every sensor, turbo, intake thrown on top, and we were buying them for $1,800 delivered to your door.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now they're like $8,000. Like we regret not buying more. We were like, oh, 1,800 seems cheap. Like we should buy 1 or 2 of these. And we bought 2, I think. And then now they're like $8,000. We're like, boy, we really should have bought more.
Oh,
The other
someone
beauty
said
of the Ecotec is that it's a aluminum block. Like, I mean, so is the K series, obviously, but like when you start comparing to other like of the small displacement engines, like the 07K and stuff, they're all iron block, so there's a lot more weight there.
this guy says the VVT head is the best if you're staying under 7,500. Same thing you were saying. It's only good to swap that head if you're going 9 or 10,000. Oh, and then they always ask, what's your favorite ice cream and pizza flavors?
Coffee ice cream and margarita pizza. Easy.
Prepared. Ice cream for me is anything with like the Moose Tracks or whatever that has like Reese's peanut butter cups in it. I love that stuff. And then for pizzas, I'm a white pizza guy. I mean, I like we actually have one of those big green eggs, like the smokers, and we'll make pizzas on that. But I'm not a big tomato guy, so like a bougie white pizza, I'm all about.
Jamie loves
just like the garlic.
margaritas.
All around pizza, the same.
This is a good one. 24 Hours of Lemons is ostensibly for $500 cars, with the cost of safety equipment and everything, being obviously you're allowed to do that to be safe. So like he says, what's a more realistic actual budget for building a Lemons car going to a race weekend?
You want to take it or you want me to, Harry?
Well, I can at least start that. So I will say there's like Lemons advertises the $500 car thing a lot still, but nobody's out there with the $500.
I was sure of that also, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes guys will show up to like tech with a binder full of receipts of like everything they sold off the car and how they got it down to $500. And I always feel bad for those guys because Lemons just doesn't
They're
care.
like, whatever.
Go race. Yeah, whatever, man. Go race.
Shit's not going to last. Get on the track.
So it's about building it in the spirit of Lemons, I would say. Like either have a good theme or drive a weird car. Realistic budget, though. I mean, we're consumables only, not exclude breaking things and buying spares and
yeah, it sounds like that's
stuff.
what he's just curious what it takes to when they say it costs like $3,000 for a top fueler to make a pass with nothing broken,
I would say it's about $4,000 to $5,000 a race realistically to put a car on the track and be successful and run it all weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I guess we should preference with that like we typically run, let's say 15 cars at a lot of races. So like you can run a C-class car for, I think, more affordable.
Is he in our old garage?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at the Omni.
Look at that Miata, though.
Yeah, that's my housemate's. He's turboing it right now.
All right, you fancy.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Sorry.
Want to show your face, Jamie?
What's that?
She won't show her
No,
face.
she's gone already. She never does really. I mean, we did one not long ago where she like asked me questions and stuff.
Yeah,
That was about
That was a
it.
pretty good one.
that was a good one.
That's what I hear.
But yeah, as Brendan was saying, like, yeah, you can certainly be a little cheaper, and if you don't want to run as fast. Like when I first started, I was running AutoZone pads, like brake pads, and I could get like, depending on the track, a day or a weekend, maybe even out of a set of pads. And then like I started running faster, and I like got to the point where I couldn't get a set of pads to like live an entire day. So then I went to like Carbotechs that are like 200 and something bucks a pop. And at first they would last me multiple races, and I was like, oh, this is incredible. And then we got faster and faster still, and now I'll smoke a set of Carbotechs in a day, and so I'm running 2 sets of pads a weekend again. So like, if you want to run at the front of the pack, it definitely is more expensive.
Yeah, the scale is interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? When people are like, what's it cost to turbo an LS? And I'm like, well, if you have
What do you
really
wanna
good
do with it?
knowledge, you can get away with nothing. But if if you want a Huron Speed kit and, Nick Williams throttle body and all that stuff, that's going to cost you a lot.
Yeah,
No,
I
but
mean,
that's
you
a
figure
good figure.
The Aspens, but it goes through 8 tires a weekend.
Jeez.
So, and they're good tires. So there you're talking a good amount of money.
Yeah.
So
So the way
You guys are using as much tire as drift guys do.
yeah, actually, I sell the wore out tires to drift guys.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah,
It
So
took
you
us
make,
a little
you
while
make
to like,
back like 10% of what you spent.
yeah. Like usually I get like $20 a tire back, but it's better than paying to get rid of them.
You have enough to get gas to go home out of that?
Yeah, barely.
it took us a little while to like figure out a structure that worked. Like we first tried to co-own a car, and that got a little messy as far as like people wanted to go different directions with the car. So now we've gone to this where like Brendan owns the Aspen, I own the Omni. I pay for everything on it. I pay for fuel, tires. If I want to upgrade the car, I'm paying for the upgrades. I pay for everything. And then we have 4 drivers per car per weekend.
Oh,
And so
wow.
then we charge those other drivers a number to come drive with us for the weekend. And
Yeah.
Brendan's even done a thing where he's like gone to his drivers and been like, look, I can run this tire that will be slower on, but I'll only have to buy 1 set of tires for the weekend. Or I can buy this tire that will be faster on, but we're going to go through 2 sets the weekend. What do you guys want to do? Do you want a higher cost and be competitive or not? And almost
Yeah,
always everybody says,
that's a nice
"Let's spend
option."
money, let's be competitive.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
always.
uh,
Go ahead.
It's like you're going to laser tag and you're like, well.
Yeah, choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I'm sure if I offered the $400 or 400 horsepower option versus what it is now, like the extra to get to run the car hard, like it's kind of funny. Once you get somebody in a race car, even in lemons or whatever, everyone becomes a race car driver essentially and just wants to be the fastest there. I don't care how you started, but by Sunday is there.
Yeah, it's funny. We've had guys say to us, they're like, like this race I can't do, but like if there's a race they really want to do, they're like, I'll go. Like I just bought a house, I can't afford anything. I will go into debt to race that race. Like just let me know. Like I don't know if that's smart, but okay.
Yeah.
There was a good question here. He says, I have an LS. Do you think a Don't BS Me combo would be effective in road racing?
So the LS combos, and we thought it was Lemons guys trying to, they always claim they blow up and they never live through a day. And I can say we've pretty decently built LSs that don't last multiple hours on track.
Oh,
I don't know
why?
if they're, need a dry sump maybe.
Oh, okay.
But like, there's some cars that have had like some pretty built, like, of course they spent money and built a 408 and all this, and like they drop a valve or something stupid and eat the motor. So it's really, I don't think we've seen one finish a race, have we, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we've ever seen even a turbo. We've seen a pro charged LS. I don't think we've ever seen a turbo LS in Lemons. But yeah, even NA LSs seem to struggle to finish. And this does, like, I always find it funny. Like people be like, can an LS live on track or not? And it's like, well, how fast what tires are you running? How fast
I would
you
bet
going?
it's the sump issue also, because they even have issues in drag racing. Once you make it really fast, it'll put all the oil front or back immediately. And that's because people, even if they have good oil control for acceleration, like 1.2 60-foot or something retarded. If you're in the shutdown, it'll put all the oil in the front, and then you're just, yeah. And then if you're shutting off your engine and you don't have like a clean neutral, the pump isn't spinning on the auto, and it burns the auto in the shutdown. Like there's a ton of stuff that they make mistakes in 8-second pass, let alone 8 hours.
Even the guys at the Hillclimbs that are running LSs. Now, granted, I don't know if I've seen anybody with an AccuSump there, so I don't know if an AccuSump would be enough of a Band-Aid to make it live. But it seems like the guys that are going fast, the Hillclimbs, and their LSs are living are all dry sumps.
I mean, Kurt's making it up the hills.
True, Kurt is making it up the hills. Kurt has an no, Kurt doesn't have an AccuSump, I think, and he's a front sump fan. So I don't know how he's managing it. But the other guys
tune in it. No, that's no.
Yeah, that's
That's why he's so fast. It's not driver skill at all. It's because I beep, boop, beep.
Yeah.
That thing's got to be wild. It makes like 720 on gate.
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be a hand. I mean, you watch him and like he'll mess up one corner a little bit, and then he just starts drifting the hill.
Yeah, he said someone crashed in front of him the other weekend. He's like, my friend stuffed it, and he's like, so I just drifted the whole way. He's like, that took all of that put fear into me. I didn't want to wad the car up then.
When I like first started running the hill climbs, I was like, man, I can't believe all these people are out here with these like slow cars. And now that I've like started pushing a little bit harder, I'm like, man, I don't need to be in a fast car at the hill climb. Like, there's trees everywhere. Trees don't move. Like, I have no interest in doing what Kurt does.
That's a good answer.
Even Kurt said that he's building a vibe. He wants to slow down at the hills. He's like, yeah, like I just want to have fun in a front wheel drive car and be able to push hard and not be as scary as a 700 horsepower.
Yeah, it's like a Miata, right? Are you driving at 10/10 with 130 horsepower, or are you scared shitless with 700?
Yeah, it's always funny to see the cars that I'm competitive with at the hill. It's like, sure, your car affects your speed a lot at the hill climb, but driver, how confident the driver is really the bigger thing for the speed at the hill climbs. So there'll be cars that should be way faster than me, but I'm not scared to take a corner flat out. They're making 700 wheel. They're scared to touch the throttle in the corner.
Yeah, or they just
can't.
can't.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, and so I'll be, right there with them.
Oh, he was asking what ECU do you have? I think it's stock.
Yeah, it's a stock ECU. Is it a P38?
I don't know those ECUs. If it was an LS ECU, I could tell you.
I think it is the same ECU as some LSs. I think. Brendan, you know?
I think I think visually it looks like it. I don't know. It doesn't have enough coil drivers and stuff to be an LS.
I am opening the tune file quick. Since I have it.
E67 sounds right on the tune.
E67. Yep. I see it right here. It says 07 Chevrolet Cobalt LEV. 3 models, all of them. It actually has that info there. Yeah, I have the tune file, of course. I'm ridiculous. That was in 2021 is when we flashed that tune file in.
Yeah, probably like April 17th-ish, I'm guessing.
Oh, I just... 4/14/21.
Okay, yeah. 3 days off.
3 days off, yeah.
I would have said...
And then, the Aspen is on a factory...
I would say a lot of factory stuff's just flat out reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, it was meant to be in that car for 500,000 miles, so...
Yeah,
and I can't remember, Harry, is the math failed in that technically?
No, I'm still running the math. Yeah, I have a factory airbox on it, and then I 3D printed like an intake elbow for it. So it's like one of those like Cobra head style sort of.
So be happy.
And I bought one of the Cobra heads, and it was still too tall. It hit the hood, so I 3D printed my own that necks down even lower, and then goes over to the factory airbox, and it's been like that since I built it.
Yeah, the interesting thing with the LS is because I've tuned a lot of like Pocono Raceway dudes, and what's funny is they all have C5s, and they have dry sumps like behind the seat, shelled off, and it has an oil warmer, and like they wouldn't even let me start the cars until the oil temp was like 150. But those guys have no issues. I think I've tuned probably 6 of them, and I think they would blow up their LS6s eventually. And the one guy bought like a Texas Speed 408 and put it in, and I tuned it, and it conservatively made, because I'm like, they're going to be flooring it forever. It conservatively made like 520 to the tire. And then that did so well, his friend was like, what did you buy? And I tuned another one and another one. And they're like, yeah, it's incredibly reliable, but they all had, dry sumps for sure. They had a tank in the back, huge. They were C5s.
I went to an AccuSump on this eventually because when I first built it, I had no gauges in the car at all. But I had a check engine light on it. Check engine light would flash at you randomly on track, and so then I cut that. I cut the wires to it so I didn't have to see a light flashing at me anymore. I had nothing. And then eventually I put an oil pressure gauge on it, and I learned that through every left-hand corner, because the Ecotecs make like insane oil pressure. Like when I'm on track, even when they're all fully at temp, I'll make over 100 pounds of oil pressure when I'm going down the straight.
You got a
It's
coyote.
Crazy. I guess it must be for the cam phasers and stuff. So like, I don't know why it is, but they
Hondas
make crazy
have
oil pressure.
My D-Series Turbo Civic made like 130 on a cold start.
If you blip this thing at like cold idle, it just pegs the gauge. I mean, it sits at 80 or 90 at a cold idle.
Yeah, similar, like obviously as VTEC, like the D-Series has, well, a VTEC D-Series does, but so same as that. Yeah, it probably needs it to be able to move the cam.
That's my theory. Yeah. So, and then I noticed though, as I started going faster, through every left-hand corner, I would drop down to like 30 or 40 pounds of oil pressure. Like it was just oil starving.
You lose like 70 pounds.
Yeah. So I like felt bad for it. So I put an it never gave me any problems. I never saw any indicators of wear in the oil or anything, but I put an AccuSump on it just to try to be nice to it. So I run a 3-quart AccuSump on it now.
Yeah. I feel like that would fix a lot of issues. It's like a surge tank for your oil.
Yeah, I just drilled and tapped the side of the oil filter housing and just blow it in right into the oil filter housing. So.
Oh, nice. This guy's saying, I started following Harry when he had the Hilux. Are there any updates for that?
Oh, God.
Yes.
It left my shop and went to his shop.
Yeah, I have a 74 Hilux that I bought to actually move into this house. Is why I bought it. I needed a truck.
I remember,
this little mini truck for sale.
People that don't know, Harry bought our old house from Jamie and I.
Yeah. I bought the garage and it came with the house.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we did too.
Yeah. So then we wanted to run Drag Week because it was 2019 when Drag Week was local. And I'm not that into drag racing necessarily, but I like the idea of the drag and drive events. I think they're cool. And so we wanted to do that. And originally we were going to just do like a 5.3 with a lot of nitrous and a turbo 400 and an 8.8 or something simple. But then like I knew long term, I wanted it to have like good suspension and handle and everything. And so then scope creep happened and we got crazy and I bought a wrecked 2013 Grand Sport Corvette. And I was trying to put the whole dry sump LS3 with an LSA blower, suspension, brakes, torque tube, transaxle, everything into it without doing a wide body, which proved very, very challenging. We didn't get
fair. We did do that. We just didn't get steering.
Yeah,
because there was no place for a steering rack.
Because I narrowed the front suspension 13 inches, so then I had to come up with a steering rack that was 13 inches narrower than a Corvette steering rack, and there are no good options out there. And then especially without trying to change the length of the torque tube, it wanted to be through the engine because it shortened the wheelbase a little bit, and so it was just one problem after another. So then it sat for a few years. I didn't touch it. I now have a massive mental block on it, but I've since realized I really don't care about drag racing at all. I want to build it for the Hillclimbs. So I've since pulled the LS3 and the LSA out of there and I put a 2.4 Ecotec in and I've started over on the chassis. So I'm keeping the torque tube, keeping the transaxle, I'm keeping the Corvette suspension and brakes and everything.
Bolting an Ecotec on.
But holding an Ecotec on with, I don't know what I want to do for it. Like part of me wants to just do like a turbo build and try for like 400 VO, which is pretty reasonable out of like a 2-liter turbo Ecotec. The other part of me wants to do the mechanical, like you can get Kinsler mechanical fuel injection for them, and guys will build them like a 14-to-1 compression and run E85 and make like over 300 NA out of these things. And I kind of just want to be stupid and have ITBs and mechanical fuel injection. So I'm telling myself I need to build the whole chassis first before I buy an engine for it. But
yeah,
eventually that's what it'll be.
Oh yeah,
it may be the only Ecotec bolted to a C6 Grand Sport torque tube and TR6060 right now.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, maybe this winter I'll work on it again.
So my friend Andrew goes, I'm not going to lie, Harry's garage did look familiar. I said, ask him to see the whiteboard.
The whiteboard is still hanging up there.
You had said you're not interested in the house or garage unless the whiteboard stays at some point as a joke, but
I still have the whiteboard.
I was like, that is so in the concrete, you can have it, or the brick. That is in
Got a few
there.
scratches on it now, but
That's where like my, I just linked some people to my boost control thing where I go over everything in the world about, I start with like very simple mechanical and work up to like CO2 based. And the one guy was like, holy shit, this is a lot of information.
Yeah.
He was like, I do drag racing and I thought I knew how to work CO2, but then I watched this video. Oh yeah, he says the one he remembers the most is the boost control video. I feel like I did a lot of videos pointing at that thing. If my handwriting and stuff wasn't so bad, if it didn't look like a 3-year-old drawing it, it might be better for... But the point came across.
You and me.
I don't know, Harry. That thing might have sloppy tax now. Maybe you should put it on Facebook Marketplace, see what you can get for that whiteboard.
Yeah, eBay it.
Yeah.
This is good. Is there any tricks you learned on lemons you think would translate to drag or drag and drive for those of us on a budget?
Yeah, build your car out of parts you can buy on zone in Arkansas. Because I think the Aspen taught us that sometimes you end up driving home from the track mid-race to parts until 3 a.m. So I'd say, turbo
No
LS,
exotic pieces.
turbo 400s. Yeah. Is make it out of everything you can find at a, Pet Boys, or if they even exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I always say the same thing to people. Like, there's a reason why everyone chooses the LS, because you can get 06 Silverado parts and put it on your turbo car.
Yep.
As long as you don't have crazy stuff like billet dry sump pans and things.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to be crazy, I guess, like, you could argue maybe like a chassis swap or something would make sense, right? Because then you're not dealing with any old arcade. Like, if you want to be weird,
if you have an old truck,
right,
you put it on a
we've done.
Crown Vic and call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you can still go to AutoZone and get suspension parts if you do something stupid, or
You could rob a police car. Don't do that.
I don't know. Are there any Crown Vic cop cars? Maybe in Arkansas.
No, they're
there's
all
no Crown
gone.
Vic.
It's those Dodges and Fords now.
They're all back.
What is this one? This is a good one. I'm in the beginning stages of building a 62 Buick Special to do road racing, hill climb, autocross, etc. Is there any lessons you learned that could be applied to a fresh build to make it better?
Start with a lot of tire and build your car around a lot of tire. Like, I mean, that's what Brendan and I both learned. It just seems like there's no limit to having too much tire on the car. I mean, I'm 275s at the hill climb and 245s at the endurance racing, which for a 2,200 pound car is a fair bit of tire. And like, it just seems to go faster and faster with more tire.
Does it hurt your neck?
No, not really. I mean, I have a full containment seat in the car and, Hans and everything.
You ever see the F1 guys like doing the stretches with the...
Yeah. Oh, lost Brendan.
He's been spotty. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. His internet's always spotty in that shop.
He'll be back.
But yeah, I mean, and then like if you want to do a lot of endurance racing, I don't know whether he's just said road race or endurance, but for endurance specifically, I mean, granted, like, so all these budget endurance series are doing, they basically all cap yourself to a 200 treadwear tire to try to level the playing field. That's how they do that. And so there has now been a lot of development in 200 treadwear tires as this budget endurance racing gets
I heard a new one just came out. It was like a meme or something, and people were all
Hoosier.
happy. And I'm like, that must be a big thing.
Hoosier just dumped. So Hoosier owns Continental, which I didn't realize until recently. But Continental makes a tire that's supposed to be really good that I've never ran. But then Hoosier just dropped a 200 treadwear tire. And I have a suspicion that it's reality. It's like a 40 treadwear tire that they're just stamping with a 200 tread. It's probably going to be stupid fast.
Awesome.
But the Hankook makes this RS4, And like the joke is that it picks up everybody else's rubber and sticks it to the tire, and it grows in tread depth over the weekend. Like you just cannot kill them. Like you can drive like such an a-hole and just cannot kill an RS4. They're not the fastest thing ever, but if you're trying to be on a budget and do it for a long time, the RS4 is just so good. Other than that, I mean, good brakes, right? Like, so I have stock base model Cobalt calipers on this, but the car weighs 1,000 pounds less than a Cobalt does. And then I have good pads on it. And we just cut a chunk out of the Cobalt firewall and moved all the pedals and everything over. That way the master cylinders are right for the clutch and the brake and everything.
Yeah, it's super smart.
And I can outbrake pretty much everybody on track by doing that.
I remember you telling me that. Everyone's like, some people are fast as balls and they'll pass you, but then you're like, meh, like on the inside on the brakes.
Right through the corners every time. But you got to be a little careful sometimes with like, right? Lemons put 145 drivers on track at New Jersey this last year. Yeah, so it's crowded, and that's like
Miata spec.
Yeah, I mean, except for like 10X, like I think spec Miata, like because most of the series they do like true hot pits where like you get a spot on the pit lane or whatever, and you sit up there for the weekend.
Oh.
Whereas Lemon, but they're like tracks only have 30 to 50 hot pit spots typically. So Lemons makes you paddock in the grass, come fuel the car in the hot pit, and then get out of there. So that's how they shove so many cars on tracks. Like spec Miata and stuff, though, I think they're like usually 30 to 40 cars.
I just remember seeing videos of like 1,000.
Oh, because they just drive in one big pack. I mean, they're all together. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm friends with a guy that races spec Miata, and like he posted a video recently of like, why is spec Miata bumpers always scratched up? And he just sits there the entire time and just taps the bumper of the guy in front of him. Doesn't have enough power to pass, but drafting, he can just sit there and tap all day long. But then there's 145 cars on track. You got to figure probably 30 or 40 of those guys, it's their first time ever driving on a track and road course, maybe. Let alone
you're driving around
racing.
People that could cause an issue.
Yeah, so when you start I've spit me before. When you start dive bombing people, you'll think you have the corner, and somebody will come over into you, and
they're not paying enough attention.
So everybody's at fault in racing, but
yeah. You all signed up to go out there and hit each other.
Yeah. I'm excited to try the Lucky Dog and the AER that we're racing later this year are going to have more like that 30 to 50 car count.
Wow.
So I'm really excited to try that and get some cleaner air. I'm a little worried that like right now at Lemons, like if I get clean air for one lap, I drive as fast as I possibly can because I'm like, woohoo, this is my one chance to set a fast lap. And so I'm worried about keeping myself in check as far as speed creep. And, if I have lap after lap after lap with open lap, because we both have Garmin's in the car. So they give you a live, like it's like a video game where it gives you the red and green and it shows your lap split.
I saw that.
So
Rob Dahm just put up a video where he was road racing somewhere and it was literally giving him the ticks, like minus 103 and stuff.
Yeah. And so like you'll go through a corner and you'll look over and you'll be like, "Ooh, I just shaved 3 seconds off. Like I'm doing great here." And so if you're halfway through a lap and you see you're down half a second on your best time, you drive like a complete a-hole for the rest of the lap to try to complete it and get a good time or whatever. But then you can only shave a second off your lap so many laps in a row. Eventually you get to the point where you're going to take a corner too fast and mess it up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to try to keep myself in check there.
That's what, obviously bike racing is like that too. I had a lot of friends try to tell me to race at like Summit Point or stuff like that. And I'm like, all you dudes wreck off the track and break your spine and shit. I've had a couple friends that had to get like helicoptered. I'm like, yeah, not a fan. My
housemate tracks bikes and like kind of want to like try it to just like see what it's like. And the other part of me is just like, I don't need to learn what that's like. I probably will enjoy it.
A nice high side will straighten you out.
Yeah. Have you ever done any on track stuff?
No, I always thought it would be cool to do. I was busy like shaving off the sides of my shoes through corners in Allentown. So this is a good one. Favorite tool you only use for unintended purposes or things other than what it was originally designed for, like an adjustable hammer.
Sure. I mean, my immediate answer to that, even though it's not really answering the question, is like, I got this from Brendan, but I use angle grinders for absolutely. Like I watched Brendan like cut hose clamps with angle grinders to trim them. Like everything gets cut with an angle grinder. in his shop and now my shop too.
He uses it more than like a Phillips. He uses a angle grinder to take a Phillips screwdriver off.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Angle grinder for everything in Brendan's shop. Thought we had him there. Maybe
nope, not today.
The tool that I would say it's designed for it, but like it's barbaric. Is you ever had any of the Knipex pliers?
Yep.
Those things just like I don't really like adjustable wrenches.
Does this work?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I had to go find a hotspot. Our actual internet just crashed at the house.
Oh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I thought it was my extender, but it's the entire house.
Are you in the middle of nowhere?
No, we're in Landenberg, PA, like right outside Kennett Square. Like I'm kind of in the woods, but not. I don't know. I'm not in the middle of Allentown, but
the question right now is tools that you use improperly. And I said that you use an angle grinder for absolutely everything.
Uh-oh.
I think that's properly though.
Hey, it reminds me of that picture where the guy's on the chair upside down, and it says, you can't be doing it wrong if no one knows what you're doing. You know?
Yeah, I know the picture you're talking about.
You're like, I'm a pro, and they're like, wow, that guy's a pro.
I'm pretty sure I taught Harry like all the bad things about angle grinders, like always one hand, never a shield on it,
6-inch wheels on forward angle grinders at all times.
I actually use them correctly a lot because
wheels.
I push on the guard to do stuff. I've like come to utilize the guard to like brace it and hold it. So instead of like tumbling stuff, I'll push it against the guard and cut it like almost like a bandsaw. So like I feel really weird when there's one without the guard because I'm so used to smashing my hand into the guard.
I've gotten so used to the 6-inch wheels that like I pick up a 4.5-inch wheel now. I'm like, oh, it's time to throw this one out. It's already used up. Like
this one's done. It makes sense though, because a 4 you cut a little bit and then it's gone.
It's gone. And your surface speed right at the edge, like with a 6-inch wheel, like you have a brand new wheel, they rip. Like you can cut so fast with them compared to a 4.5.
Yeah, that's the trick. You get that RPM increase at the end.
Yeah.
Free upgrade.
And then, like, I used to be okay with Harbor Freight angle grinders, and then I met Brendan, and he only has Metabos, and now I pick up a Harbor Freight one. I'm like, this is absolutely not. This.
I remember you telling me you're like, it has to be Metabo.
Yeah, it has to be Metabo now. That or the Brendan also.
To be fair, I'm down to the DeWalt ones with the paddles now because the Metabos are too heavy. They wear me out quicker. So I go to the really shit $90 two DeWalts, which are pretty.
Uh-oh. Poor guy.
Also, he also introduced me to the Knipex
outside,
and like
I know.
I don't like those. Like I don't use pliers and like I didn't use like channel locks or whatever. It's like what people usually call a plier like that.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought they were such a gross tool. And then, like, I started using Knipex, and, like, you can grab a bolt with those things and not even, like, mar them up. They just
I tell people all the time, totally worth the money.
Totally worth the money.
I actually have, like, tiny ones.
You have the flat-jawed? Yep.
Even these are useful.
Do you have the flat-jawed Knipex?
I don't, but I want to buy, like, there's a 2-pack for like 150, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's worth it, but I can't do it yet.
I have the 5-pack of them, and they are fantastic.
Did you get like a firm loan for that?
I think that was maybe a gift from work.
Ah.
Yeah. I think that was a Christmas present one year from work I'm pretty sure that's where I picked that up, was a Christmas present one year. But yeah, they're just the best thing ever.
Okay, do I exist now?
Yeah, it's even better.
Yeah, better camera quality, better everything.
I literally put the hotspot. The hotspot is outside the shop now, running off a jump pack.
Nice.
And the door's open, so my shop's not like a big Faraday cage.
Oh.
So yeah, talk about sloppy, right?
The first time I saw the flat jaws, it was Soundman, Doug Bernard's. He's like very eclectic sound guy on YouTube. But I like to watch his videos every now and then, and he put hydraulics on like a Thunderbird or something he built, like one of the old supercharged Fords, and he did like his whole hydraulic setup with those Nipex flat jaws, and I was like, I need those. And then I saw that they're like 150 a piece, and I was like, maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, it is nice, like, if you're a mechanic and you got a snap-on guy or something, they all sell them now, and then at least when you wear the jaws out, they'll actually replace them for you. So, like,
I think Harbor
do
Freight
your
has
due
a
diligence
set
and trust
of
that.
icons.
Yeah.
I'll probably get
I
those.
like the icon tools that I've had so far. Like,
Yeah, they're even nicer than the base tools, and you could probably burn it with a torch and throw it in a volcano, and they would replace it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what
True,
I mean. They
true.
do what Sears used to do.
Yeah.
You're like, I intentionally
Now
broke this using it to stop a crank pulley, and they're like, okay, here's your new one.
I'm trying to think any other tools that I use the wrong way. I don't know. I'm sure there are. I don't have the answer to it right now.
I mean, for me, because I like to pretend I'm a machinist on certain things, I would say the mill and the lathe is the things I use the wrong way all the time
Yeah, that's fair.
for lack of knowledge.
This person asked like pretty much the same things. He answered like what you did. He said some of the teams have serious mental gymnastics trying to justify their cars being, you know, and this guy says, lucky for them, I'm not a Lemons official. But then, like you said, they don't even care.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, they'll chastise you. They'll stick you in A class right away, and they're gonna laugh at you and be like you said, you're not gonna make it all weekends. We don't care. If you win a race, and then you come back again and you have a crazy car, then they might start to. The thing about Lemons is it's also all completely. So there's two techs you go through, right? First you go through safety tech. That's serious. That's real. Then you go through what they call BS tech, and that's where they class you. And so there's A, B, and C class, C being the slowest, A being the fastest. And then they'll give you penalty laps potentially. And they openly accept bribes. So by the end of the weekend, they'll have a table full of alcohol bottles, good food, donations to charities, weird car parts. Like people will learn what judge is doing it that weekend, and they'll get them like weird trinkets about the hobby they're into.
That's cool. It brings it back to like old NASCAR where they like smoking in the car.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. So like, you know, if you have like some crazy built car and you win overall, and then you show up again, they're gonna be like, hey, you can race an A class, but you're gonna start 200 laps down, so like you're never gonna win again.
Oh,
so they'll let you.
That's one of the main reasons. That's one of the main reasons. Like the Aspen still has a 4-cylinder in it, because when you show up with a 3,200-pound full size quote unquote muscle car with a 4-cylinder in it, you kind of get a little room. If we showed up with an LS in it, that's where we'd start. You know. Getting hate.
Throw penalty laps at you so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, we've avoided penalty laps, but like it is an A-class car, but we won C with it being a naturally aspirated 4-speed car, and then we won B turboed, right, Harry?
Yeah, you won B turboed.
And now we've just been suffering for a win in A, but that's just how it all goes. But they just like it because the Aspen is like known to be like the shittiest 70s car there is. So they just kind of think it's funny that's what we chose. And then the Omni just piggybacks off of that being another like odd Chrysler, almost Volkswagen product. So they're just like, you guys can do whatever you want because you actually have funny cars. Like if we had Ecotec Miatas, they would not like us, I would say.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
it's like when you go to a track and it's 80% Fox bodies, people are like, ugh.
Yep.
They're like, just have a Fox body class and the rest of us can race cars.
You'll have C-class cars that are faster than A-class cars because a Miata pretty quickly gets shoved in A, but the reality is a stock engine Miata isn't that fast. They just don't have enough horsepower to be that fast.
We had yours on the dyno a few times.
Yeah.
90 horsepower or 88 horsepower?
Yeah, something like that. And then 150 with spray.
Juice.
I think is what we made. Yeah.
I would say like a Miata is a quick car on track, but it's a momentum car. And when you're in a Lemons race on, say, like a 2.5-mile track with 146 cars like we raced in Jersey this year, there's no such thing as keeping momentum. You need something that like you get through traffic, get a little open spot, and you can gun it and pick up some speed. But like that's not what a Miata does.
No.
So, you know, on a track day, I'm sure they're fun, but not great for really crowded New Jersey traffic like we deal with, I'd say.
Yeah, I doubt it is any good there. I'm interested. It would be cool to. Do you know if they make the ECU connector for that E67? Could we like make a patch plug for the MS3?
I would have thought so, but I don't know. It's
A
an
lot of the
interesting
stuff
question.
you would think, like the P01 and the P59, you cannot find the socket.
Oh, really?
No, it's really tough. Like a couple people I know were actually inquiring China to injection mold some so that people could make
Sure.
patches. The only way
I mean,
I've found
I mean,
to
I
do
would.
it. What?
Can you buy the terminal? Like
No.
that goes.
Like the
You can't
ECU
even buy the
side? No.
connector. Yeah.
The only way
okay.
I've found is I opened it up and I cut the circuit board right before all the soldering points go into the board. And then you could solder every pin and put like a daughter board inside the ECU if you wanted to be tricky.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say to do. Just desolder the connector out of the ECU and make a pigtail almost.
Yeah, what's funny is
Cool.
I've tried it. They're like a 90-degree connector, and once you clip
Yeah.
it off the board, it's completely loose and it'll slide in and out of the connector.
Oh,
over here.
really?
It's a
Are you
pain in the ass
cutting it?
every single
Are
way.
you-
Yeah, it's stupid.
Are you cutting
Yeah.
it or are you unsoldering it?
Well, if you
Yes.
take it off the board support, it'll come out of the connector. Even though it's a 90, there's enough slack that the minute you take it out of the board, it moves. So what you'd have to do is flip it over and go to the pin points that are soldered from underneath.
Oh, is it through hole?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then it's 4 pins deep. So if you have to get to something on the inside without from under, it ends up being a nightmare.
Yeah, because it's surprising how cheap it is to make circuit boards anymore. Like just to draw one up and have them made. Like actually, my brother just had a thing made like using Wago connectors.
Yeah.
He made a relay board with board mounted Wago connectors.
All we'd have to do is like get somebody to do it. I'm not that guy, unfortunately.
So my work makes boards.
Here it is.
So yeah, I can make boards. Like that's not that big of a deal. We have
Hmm.
a whole like SMT surface mount technology. Like we have pick and place machine. We have 2 pick and place lines.
That's
And so,
what
like,
I mean.
I can
EFI
just-
Source has all that cool stuff.
Yeah, so I can order like a board from PCB Way and then just run like one little onesie twosies.
You should make one find one with the mating connector for your ECU, and we should pin an MS3 for Ecotechs, and then we could be millionaires selling plug and play Ecotech MS3s.
Yeah, I mean I'm down to be a millionaire. I
Yeah.
won't complain.
Well,
Yeah.
we would make $100 off lemons.
Yeah,
If that many people have an Ecotech, it's something to consider.
that is interesting.
Because you could
I
do,
would
like,
say the problem is the Ecotech's almost dying because people are going to those LFX V6s now.
oh,
Like that's the new hot swap.
Hmm.
Where the Ecotech Miata used to be a thing, and now it's the dual overhead
Yeah.
cam V6s.
Have you played with those at all, Matt?
no.
Interesting.
Is
Yeah.
it
Like
the-
the Camaro motors.
No, not the V6 Camaro. A lot of that, it's Gen 5, right? It's DI.
Yeah, it's DI.
I don't really like to play with DI stuff at all. I feel like the ECU strategies are overwhelmingly complex, and I don't care to learn them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
It took me forever to find a tuner for the 2-liter. That's in
I'm
this
like-
car 'cause it's DI.
hand me a 1500 horsepower car with a Holly. I don't want to touch a new Ford. Nope. It has 65 spark tables. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not touching it. And they have like a torque based airflow, whatever you want to call it. They're torque based. They're not like real load or anything. It's just what is that called? I'm losing the word. It
It's
just
like a
makes up.
calculation.
It makes up. Yeah, it's calculated. So it's not real anything. It's calculated. And I even learned that from a kid rents dyno time from me with like a 19 GLI that makes like 658 to the tire. And that he said even oil temperature is calculated. It's not real oil temperature.
Yeah, Harry could tell you all about that.
Yeah. So when I
I'm
say I
like-
didn't have gauges in my car, the first race I had like I forget what the name of that app is, but where you plug in the OBD2 scanner and like it gives you
Torque Pro.
Torque Pro or
Torque
whatever.
Pro.
I ran that on like a tablet for the first race just to have something, and my oil temp went to like 380, 400, 450. I'm like, guys, like this is insane. And then we're like, there's just no way this is real. Like it has to be calculated. We realized, sure enough, there's not an oil temp sensor. It's just calculating it off like load and something else.
Yeah.
Because I was driving flat out for so long. They're like, oil temp's got to be through the roof. Which, to be fair, I don't have an oil temp gauge. It probably is pretty warm. But.
Yeah, because when it was on the dyno, it would set the rev limiter to like 4,000 because it thought the oil temp was low.
Oh.
And then if it thought the oil temp was high, it would set a 4,000 rev limiter too.
Huh.
So we were
On the
stuck in like a
geological
window, and he went in and just told it was 150 or 175 degrees in all the tables. It took like 3 flashes. Sure. Same thing, like we changed a million things and we just had a rev limiter on yours again and again. And then eventually I'm just like slapping numbers in everywhere and it went away. And I'm like, huh, we're good.
This guy says that ZZP is a patch harness for the E67 that's in the 2.4 that's in the slingshots.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I always thought, that someone would eventually make a patch harness for P01 and P59. And then you could just because I mean they make it for like R33. Like you can call up ECU Masters and get a patch that goes from a black to a K24 or a black to an R33. And I'm like, where the hell is like one of the most popular ECUs ever to just plug in like a Holly or a Megasquirt? It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you patch this guy in. For the Ecotec, though, that's like those guys really tune them and turbo them and do all that. I think that's the only reason it's almost a relevant motor anymore.
The slingshots.
Yeah.
They probably will keep it alive for a while.
This guy.
Is that a Hellcat?
The gold light. So this is an entire MS3 board condensed. It even has 8 coil drivers and injector drivers.
Oh.
Look, USB-C.
Nice.
They're actually living in 2010 plus.
Yeah.
They put a mini or a micro on it, and I was like, Mike, you have to put a C on it. Please, God, put a USB-C. I like don't even know where to find micro or minis anymore. And then you get ones that are power only. They can't do data, and you're like, why the hell do I own this? Anyway.
Yeah, like every time I buy a cord for an HP2 or a dongle, and it's always a power only cord. Like, good old Amazon.
But these are cool. Yeah. They weigh what an empty soda can weighs.
Oh, really?
And it's an entire MS3 board inside. It even has like the old school, like the Megasquirt had the entire pin out on the back.
Yeah, the breakaway. That's cool.
And then it has like a crazy latching Bosch connector. You can see like some of the power ones are bigger than the others. But yeah, it would be sick if you could make a board for this that adapts to Ecotecs. Because they're all E67s, you guys have been saying.
At least that's what my car is. Do you have any clue what yours is, Brendan?
Mine's that 3 connector, the more modern 3 connector.
Mine's
Bosch connectors like that one.
Mine's 3.
I want to say it's like an 83 something, if that sounds right.
Did I ever flash yours?
Not this one.
Since you've been turbo.
No,
or
not
since
this
you've
one.
been.
I have the Brendan Aspen NF turbo.
Yeah, that was that's the same ECU that's in Harry's right now, I believe. I think that's a 67.
It is an E67. Yeah, so all
that was when it was a turbo 2.4, I think. I don't think you ever saw it.
Yeah.
Since it was an LNF.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you could make a patch from this, or even if you hardwire this thing, it'd be cool to run this. You could do like flex and anti-lag and all sorts of dumb things. Flat shift.
Yeah. Oh, that would be
fun.
Put a strain gauge on your shifter and just smash it in between gears and cut ignition.
Phi shifter is still the like 200,000 miles stock Cobalt cable shifter. And
it works,
is the
huh?
worst feeling thing in the world. It feels so horrible. But my theory is that it makes you shift slowly and delicately, and so it keeps my trans live.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
From banging gears too hard, so I've just left it. But it feels horrible.
So mine's an E47, I believe.
That's I don't even know what those are.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's complicated. Every tuner is like, I don't want to tune the DI motor. I'm like, oh, Cool. Good
Yeah,
to
me
hear.
neither. Nope. That's what I was just saying. I don't want to touch them, especially one that's like
Yeah.
not well known. It's so annoying. Like, I'll give you like I tuned like one of my friends like a 14 or a 16 truck, and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. I'll mess around with like PE and some spark and see if my changes make any change. Cool, we'll move on. And I flashed the truck, and it made like half of the power it did on the first. Like, I totally stock made 2 dyno hits, started flashing it, and it made like 140 horsepower less. And I'm like, what did I do? And eventually, like, we couldn't figure it out. And I hit up some of my friends. I'm like, you guys tune these? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it makes like no power after the flash. And my one friend, Chris Ortiz, is like, drive it on the dyno at highway speed for like 2 minutes until when you flash it in the stereo, like the driver info center, when you flash it, it says 32 degrees, no matter what temperature it is outside. And if you drive it highway speed for like a minute or two, it'll go 33, 34. It'll start going closer to normal temp. Once it does that, you can floor it and it'll make full power.
That's crazy.
weird.
It's just stuff like that. That's what I mean. Like, I don't want to touch these cars. You could
Was
be
that
chasing
LV3
something.
truck?
What's that?
Was that LV3 truck that you worked on, the one you turboed back in the day, the 6-cylinder?
Yeah, the 6-cylinder one, but all the 5.3 ones do it. I did a 16
Did I?
Denali. It did it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Huh.
So think about how many quirky things there are involved with that. Like, you just can't tune it. You have to know garbage to make it cooperate with you. And I'm like, nah, no thanks.
I wonder how the new standalones are that can handle DI, if they're easier table wise and everything. Like I guess
mean,
what
the
is it,
Holly-
ECU Masters or something.
I did a Holly has a DI, like a Terminator that plugs into a DI box that'll go into like
right.
an L83. And that
Yeah.
worked because it oversimplified like the SOI and the EOI tables. And it wasn't that bad at all. But it's a standalone. So it negated like 680 tables.
Right. Which is awesome, in my opinion.
Which was much easier.
Huh.
You could change like I did their base table, and then you could make dyno hits, and I would throw like 20 degrees in or out of injection timing to see if it did anything. You can kind of do similar. The Holly has injector phasing, which a lot of other things do, but I think theirs does it extremely well. You can type in the cam events and have it build a table, and then what it does is it tries to spray the fuel in only when the valve is at maximum lift.
Oh, it does all that automatically. For you.
It'll build, if you give it the cam events, it'll build, you can hit generate a table. And whatever it builds, you can throw like, I've done, Joe Simpson has done the same thing too. He sells like all the Holly online tuning courses. And you can throw like 20 degrees in and out of the whole table and see if you get anything. But the base Holly table is usually like 90% right.
Wow.
Huh.
And then what's interesting enough is if you have enough injector, see if you start running out of injector, the injector is open so long that it's open the entire valve event, or it's open before and after it and it's puddling.
Yeah.
So if your injector is large enough and you're below like 60%, 50%, you can hit that. So I've had turbo cars pick up like 60 rear wheel at a low duty cycle because they could exactly hit. Pretty wild.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then
Yeah.
smell at idle, cruising, like throttle crispness, huge differences.
It's interesting that you can smell it at idle, but it makes
If you have
sense.
a
It's
really
burning it more
smelly car at
efficiently.
idle, you can change the
Yeah.
injection events and it'll go away.
Huh.
Because you don't get that puddle, I guess.
Yeah. It's weird. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense because I'm like, it's all falling in there and getting burned anyway. But
Right.
it works. There's something there. I can't deny it. There's something going on with the valve is wide open and it puts all the fuel it needs in and stops.
Well, it makes sense, right? If it gets puddling, then it's not atomized. Like, it's not atomized anymore.
Yeah, it's
probably not
just
burning
sitting
that
on the
efficiently.
valve and rolling in. But I'm like, it's a
Yeah.
turbo car. It's just violently getting shoved in there. But there is a
Sure.
science to it hitting the valve exactly the right time.
Yeah.
Because all that math it makes horsepower. So I can't
It
I
works,
can't
right?
disagree with it. It makes power every
Yeah.
time, and sometimes it's significant on a turbo car if it's at a low duty cycle. I mean, it kind of makes sense if you look at all the DI cars. I mean, other than the head improvements and everything else, on low octane, they kick the shit out of port injection cars. It just gets so complicated for a power adder, it's totally not worth it. That's why a lot of stuff now has DI and port. It's DI for like idle emissions cruise, and then when they want to make power, it has port injectors.
And
Like
it
all
helps
the new
with carbon
Audis.
buildup on the valves.
What's
too.
that?
It helps with carbon buildup on the valve.
Yeah,
and
also
everything
it's shitting
having
up the intake the
port,
whole time.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Oh, what is this? Max ECU runs like on what? Oh, there's some posts here. Matt, have you messed with the next gen dash? No, I have it here, and I'd like to hook it up to a car, and I wanted to hook it up to my Mustang and dyno it, but my transmission went on the way to the dyno the other day, and I haven't even made a video about that because it's me sitting in the car next to the state police building, and I'm like, my tranny doesn't work.
Is it an ADE in that car?
Yeah, I put in a different one because what I thought was I wanted to get rid of my entire combination and see what happened. So I pulled out ADE converter and everything, and I put in one my friend had, but he busted his rear end in the truck that he had, and that rolled the sprag in the trans, and we both told ourselves that it would be fine. And I got
No,
like
you
5 drives in, and it was flaring, and on the way to the dyno, I rolled into it in second, and it just hammered the limiter at like 7,200. It never made the 2.3. I'm like, I got a 4L60E. And then on Airport Road there, where the Race Street and all those intersections are, I made it to
Yeah.
Ike's, and then I couldn't get out of the intersection. And I'm like, you bitch. And then I'm like, this is your fault. Don't blame the transmission. It was fine. But yeah, the Cameron has told me many times if you bust a drive shaft or a rear or break an axle, it'll seem fine for a little bit, and then because it rolled the sprag over, it just completely loses all of its gears.
Interesting.
So I did that. So I broke my friend's. Well, he broke it and I finished it. So we have like 3 cores, and we're gonna send them all down to Cameron, and he has my transmission he's gonna bring Sunday. So I'm gonna put my D3 brake transmission back in with the Jegs converter that FedEx just stomped into the ground.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
Yeah, it was a $900 billet converter that they
Nice.
barbecued through the
Nice.
box. So we'll see. Both people are probably not going to take any, what's that called? Accountability for any of that. So Jegs will be like, FedEx smashed it. And FedEx will be like, it wasn't properly packaged. Meanwhile, 40 people I know that I suggest that they buy that have had no issue. But mine, I'm like, hey guys, I'll show you that this converter works. And then it gets smashed. I'm like, okay.
That
You-
next gen dash does look really nice. I have
It
a power
is,
tune
and it's
in that car, and it's
extremely-
miserable.
It's cost effective as all hell. The guy is
Really
cool. And it runs
Yeah.
over an Ethernet cable. So it has a brain box.
Oh, sweet.
And then it goes out over Ethernet. So you could put the box
Oh.
anywhere and just run a stupid Cat 5 cable. It also boots in like 2 seconds. Did you see that video I posted?
yeah.
I posted
I
on
did.
Sloppy. I'm like, look how fast this thing turns on. It's like next gen live. I'm like, oh, that's fast. And
Yeah, I have-
also, I'll show you. I'll grab it quick.
Yeah, grab it.
I'm just like
Hey,
ECU
Brendan,
wiring
Which,
fishing.
you talking about the dash in your Aspen, or do you have a dash in the BMW too?
The BMW has a factory cluster that runs off the CAN bus still.
Gotcha.
But
you're talking about
But I want to
that.
put one in the Aspen because that one, it's like refresh rate is so terrible.
Yeah.
that-
I gotta
you
make
shift
that. This
5
is
gears, then
extremely
you see the
fast
RPM.
too. Sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
everybody.
that seems awesome. Now you're fine.
But yeah, here's like a 10-inch or something. It seems like. Look at that. You
Yeah.
can see all the BS on my screen.
That
4K,
is nice with the
completely
shift
filled.
lights.
But yeah, it takes an Ethernet plug in the back, so you can make it any length you
Oh,
want.
wow.
And then it comes with a box, which is cool because it has integrated fuel sender, blinkers, high beams. And then he says it works with Haltech, Megasquirt, Holly, like a bunch of all the And then he just makes, so this is a wire that it's just a terminal strip, I guess you call it.
Yep.
And then here's the CAN connectors for the Holly. So it grabs all the data, and then you can just, what does it have? Oh, dimmers. It even has a dimmer. Like if you throw on your dimmers, it'll dim the dash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what's cool is it's USB-C updatable. So if you're like, hey, I got rid of my Holly and now I have a Haltech, you can flash it at home. And then he said there's also a wireless configure part. See, I wanted to set up he was nervous about a live show, which I understand. And I was like, we can just film all the stuff that this can do. Because I feel like I would be doing you a disservice trying to explain something so feature-packed. I only know like 10% of it. He's like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm like, yeah, it sure does. You're the expert. But then I think
any idea if he's going to make it work on like factory ECU CAN bus or?
I think so. Also, it can read. I mean, the guy seems like a genius, so it seems like if anything has CAN, he can make it read it.
That'd be awesome if you could pick up PIDs from like a GM CAN bus.
And then it has an SD card in there too. This dude is loaded.
Huh.
But yeah, I wanted to put it in. We just got the truck back, and that has a Holly in it, so it'd be cool to plug this into that and just like get the cell phone holder that sticks to the windshield and just zip tie this bitch on. And I'd love to drive around with it and show people. But people were asking how fast does it boot, and I was powering it on and off, and it's on extremely fast. And then they said, well, how's the delay? Because people get like a tablet, and it's like, 1 frame per second. When you rev it,
it's so bad.
You rev it and hit the rev limiter, and it goes 3 idle. And you're like, okay, that's a little slow. But I have a Holly stem bench that Dale made. It's incredible. And I was winging the RPM, and it was like LFA, like the Toyota. Yeah. Like where it has a digital dash.
That fast?
It was like, what? And because I could actually turn my dial enough that it would go back to like 0. It's not perfectly configured for the LS RPM setup. So I'd have to turn it like a quarter, but it was like shift lights. And then he has pre-configured dashes loaded, like one that looks like an S195, one that looks like the new GT500, where it's like the tack is down here and it goes across and sweeps across. Like all those stuff predefined, you can make your own, but what's neat is a lot of his are completely different. But yeah.
What does the dash cost?
They're cheap. Aren't they?
They
like
are not
$500?
expensive. I think the 10-inch is like $500.
Dang.
And the other ones are cheaper. Probably people in the Oh yeah, the Joe Dirt says it also has speed through GPS.
Right, which is great.
That's nice. Yeah. Maybe the Omni will get a dash upgrade at some point.
Oh, he has one. He says, I love it in my truck. 550. That's what I thought. Yeah, 550 for the 5 inches, 600.
For the big one.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Is that for the bigger dash, the 10-inch or whatever it is?
I might be totally wrong. That's why I want to have this guy on a thing, What is this guy saying? Fuel flow differences, horsepower differences. Oh, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Once I have a good transmission and a not smash converter in my car. I have the Summit high RPM intake on right now. But I'd have to like apples to apples that. But I know enough about like what stuff makes power wise. If the Summit intake makes power over 7,000, it's a beast. Because almost nothing makes power over 7,000 in my opinion. People are like, yeah, I'm just blendering my LS to like 7,800. I'm like, why? I mean, I can get it if their converter drop, drag racing stuff on stock bottom end, if their converter drop is too far, it'll fold rods. So I understand if someone's like, I have 1,000 drop on my 2.3, and if they shift at 65, it's going to go 5,500 and fold a rod. So I understand, but a lot of people are like, just like Honda people, like we would do dyno days, and I would dyno people's Civics, and I'd lift because it's not doing anything. The tack is slowing down exponentially as we rev it, and I would just lift, and they're like, why are you lifting? And I'm like, because your shit's done. It's completely wasted. It has dropped 30 horsepower on 115 horsepower B series. And they're like, no, keep revving it. And that's where I got, like, I always say to people, it's not going to grow a second wind. There's no point where you're revving this that it's just going to, it's already on its way down. It's not going to hump again, And they're like, no, keep revving it. I'm like, we don't have enough time in the day to hit 8,000 RPM in this thing.
Well, Corey Edelman was just telling me that he spins that neon to like something pretty stupid though.
Yes, but I mean that's a different animal. I think we were taking that to 88 or 9200.
Yeah, something like that.
It makes power it makes flat power from like 7 to 9200. I mean that's all he's doing too, is just staying there.
I just want a little bit of that RPM in this thing.
Yeah, that thing it sounds like it's gonna blow up the whole time. Over 5,000, it's like whir, and I'm like facing away from it. I'm like, this thing's done. It's done. I don't know how you do this for that long around a track and not have oil issues.
I convinced Corey's actually going to drive for us in October.
Oh yeah, I think you talked about that, and I think Kurt also might do it.
Kurt drove with us in June. Kurt drove for us.
What an animal that dude is.
He's definitely fast.
Yeah, I love watching that in-car. He sent me the in-car, that one hill climb. I'm like, dude, you are fast as... that's like shockingly fast, dude. And what I loved is he showed me the race results, and he was in third place. The only people that beat him were in like radical, like tube chassis, single seat, like open wheel race cars. And they were only like a second faster than him.
There's another dude that races with us that has a 4th gen Camaro that it has a 6.2 in it. It's an LS3 6.2, but NA. I think he makes like 480 wheel or something like that, and he's usually faster than Kurt even. And like, I mean, the dude is. The car's light. It's under 3,000 pounds for a 4th gen. So
isn't there another guy that has a SN95 with a dual clutch 7-speed and everything in it?
Yeah, he bought like a radical looking thing now. His wife has a 135i with a LS3 and a dry sump LS3 and a DCT, and then he moved away from his Mustang into like a radical style car. He actually won.
Yeah, it's like a turbo K series.
Yeah, he was the fastest guy there.
Yeah,
but
I think it's like a 600 horsepower car. It's crazy.
Yeah, on like I think on gate he makes like 450 or 500 or something like that, as low as it can go.
And it weighs nothing, right?
Yeah, probably weighs 1,200 pounds. Like,
yeah.
And then there's another guy that has a similar, like, it's not open wheel, like it's a radical sort of looking thing. I don't know like what you call that class of car, but he's an NA K series, and he makes over 400 horsepower, I think, NA out of this thing. He's on methanol, spins it to like some like insane art. Wow. It sounds like a bike motor going up the hill. Like he's spinning the thing so hard. Yeah. I mean, it's a proper motor, but it's usually him and Mark are battling it out for the fastest of the weekend.
I've had guys rent the dyno that like don't speak English, and they have K series cars on alcohol and nitro, and they make like 330, 350 to the tire on 2 liters.
Yeah. I think he's a big displacement. He's like a stroked out or bored and stroked out. I want to say he's like high 2 liters or something like that in this thing, and then like gnarly compression and stuff. And the car sounds insane. Yeah,
it was funny when they have a fuel cell behind the headlight, and that's the whole car, like nothing. And it was funny when they were pouring it and starting it. They didn't speak English very well at all. They were awesome dudes. And they started pouring fuel, and I went, nitro. And they looked at me like, how does he know what nitro? I'm like, you can smell nitro from 3 blocks away, dude. Like, that's not a secret. Yeah, I remember him talking about the 7 speeds. This guy is saying that too. Yeah, there's a couple guys on Sloppy that have, the one guy has like a 68 or a 69 Camaro, and he has like a 400-inch LS. And it makes like 440 to the tire, but it has one of those DCTs in it. And he was showing videos of him like racing people on asphalt, like at a legal race event. and just spanking on them with like 20-inch regular tires.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's nice. The Max ECUs control the DCT and CF8 now,
Yeah.
so
And they can
it's
also,
real easy to integrate.
yeah, they can spit GM can too, so you can just integrate a lot of stuff.
And BMW. I'm building one for a guy now, starting like next month with a 408 turbo motor with the factory DCT. And the guy that's doing the ECU work was like, "Yeah, you're going to plug it into the CAN bus, and your gauges are going to work, your traction control is going to work, the factory shifter is going to work." Like, it's so awesome that they started
Yeah,
integrating
that
that
stuff is
now.
cool. I can't deny it.
Yeah,
we're excited that blue car Brennan's building is a 8HP, the ZF8 trans.
I
Like we
want to try
talked about
one of
doing.
those.
Yeah, we talked about doing a DCT, and then these 8HPs seem to be so popular. It's funny, that car was a 6-speed car, and we swapped it to an automatic for road course use. And people get so angry about it. Like, they just think we are the
remember you
craziest
telling
people
me,
in
yeah.
the world. Man, like,
Yeah.
why would you not want this? You can just choose whatever gear you want, and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's
and
like
the best part
like-
is
dual clutch
those
is okay,
AHPs.
but an actual
Yeah.
automatic, not okay.
Yes.
Right.
Even though you can lock it up in second gear through 8th gear.
Yeah,
Like-
and then those guys that
Yeah.
have like a strain gauge, what's that? Sequential strain
Yeah.
gauge, no lift, and they're like automatic. Oh,
I'm
like, bro, okay. All right, and then they have like rev match downshifts, like they just never have to let off the gas pedal. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like,
they have
all
a
right.
$30,000 Samson gearbox that just does the same as a factory 7-speed DCT from BMW.
Yeah, then they're like, I'm
with the
still
tuner.
shifting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right. The guy with the DCT is shifting too. He's paddling or he's monkeying with the BMW lever. He's levering gears.
Yep.
No, those 8-speeds look cool. I definitely saw some videos where people mixed up RPMs and stuff, and I saw a drum like come out of one in a dyno. Did you see that one?
No.
Yeah.
They have like a shell
That's
of a
the,
car, and the guy, he hits it, and I don't know what, it was definitely user error, because it was doing fine, and then he had something wrong in the settings, and it like stuffed itself into second and shot the drum like through the floor and out the firewall and windshield, and 2 of them were in the car. I'm like, wow, you guys are lucky as fuck. Wow.
So what it is some of those controllers, they take the Mectronic unit, which is like the TCU, out of the trans, and
Yeah.
the standalone computer directly controls the solenoids. Those are the ones where you see them like grab 2 gears at once at 140 and throw the drums.
That's
And then
definitely
some
what
of
this
them-
one did.
Yeah, then like the controller I'm running in this car is a CAN TCU. It keeps the factory Mectronic, but
Yeah.
it speaks to it. So like it's a
won't
little,
let it
it's
do
probably
that.
not as motorsport. Yeah, but it's a little safer. Like,
That's
and
the
you don't have
same
to open
thing.
the trans up.
Yeah, I have a 6L80E. I love those factory
Yeah.
ECU setups, but I have a Holly controlling the 6L80, and I it's doing really well, but I haven't had a lot of seat time with it. I had the blower. What's funny is like I have that. It's a LY6 square port iron block and a 6L80, and I put a TorqStorm on it, and it made 600 horsepower and 600 foot-pounds on 9 pounds of boost.
Wow.
And it's like the most awesome combination I've had, but here I am pulling the blower off of that, going to put it on Jamie's BMW, and Tom is building me forced performance. Robert Young, he sent me an 85 millimeter S400 with like a experimental Zona rotor ass end. And I'm like, well, this has to go on, you know.
Will the 6L
It was just too
handle
good.
that,
You had to
maybe?
ruin it.
What's that?
Will the 6L handle that okay?
It's questionable, so that's why I'm gonna work up on it and see, like, if it starts having trouble with torque management and other stuff. Also, I feel like at some point it's gonna have so much power that it's gonna have too many gears.
Sure.
Because I feel like people
Fair.
with CTSVs and stuff, I don't know how Ford 10 speed. I mean, I guess it's a truck, right? But at some point you are shifting and torque managing more than you're accelerating, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like if it had a TH400 or a 4L80, it would be better off. Also, it's a light car, so I think it'll stand a bunch of power. But the first time or two, it doesn't. I have to like really mess with. I know on a stock ECU how to make all that happy, but I need to cross the bridge with the Holly. I did get it to a point where it'll like chirp third and you can paddle shifts. I had it on a push button, hilariously enough. But I said to people, I'm like, don't have a 900 horsepower car and ask me if this is okay. I don't know.
Is that 6L out of a car or out of a truck?
It's out of a car. It's a 6L80, yeah.
Is that the whole thing with them, right? The truck ones don't really live very well, and the car ones do. Is that right?
It's all programming, because the truck's factory programming is awful.
Okay.
Yeah, so what they do is they lock and unlock the converter continually from second gear and up. Then they're turning on and off DOD, and then it has like a very lazy torque strategy. So it's constantly like adding and subtracting power, shifting gears, and turning the clutch on and off on every gear shift. And it's trying to do it comfortably, so it's dragging the lockup clutch on and off and shifting gears and dragging the clutch back. Eventually it shits the converter material into the trans and it blows the transmission. And some guys have them blowing up at like 40,000 miles.
Yeah, I feel like every truck with a 6L is just...
They don't last past 60,000.
But then you have the guys in like heavy ass CTSVs and modern Camaros going fast on
they have a tune.
Stock.
Like all you really need to do is eliminate the lockup in every gear below fifth. Okay. And that's it. It'll last like 180,000 miles. Now there's more stuff you can do, but eliminating that lockup clutch from shitting sand into the transmission pan is a big incentive. See, what happens then is the dealership replaces the transmission at 60,000 and it goes bad at 100,000. Because they'll replace, sometimes it burns the converter and they're like, oh, the converter doesn't work. And the people are like, beep, boop, beep. Oh, it says replace the converter. Well, it's filled with sand still. So then it takes out the transmission and the converter 20K later, if it even lasts that long. But yeah, it's awful. That's why factory, like, if you roll into one of those early 6-speed, hell, any 6-speed truck, it gets confused on what gear to hit. It shift flares. Yeah, they do ridiculous things. And people, it's funny because people are like, I hate this transmission. It's awful. And then if you Game Boy it, people are like, this is the best transmission I've ever had. It's that black and white. It's disgusting. Almost forgot.
Yeah, I did a Magnuson on like a 2016 2500 piston and rod, because it'd been a rod eventually, and DOD delete and all that. And it's just, the transmission is the worst thing ever. I was going to actually talk to Harry about bringing it up to you, because it seems like you've talked about the 6Ls. It's I'll get it wrong. It's either a 14 to 16 right there.
I can
like
probably,
that
yeah, if
style.
it's much past a 16, probably not. I thought you said 19, and I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then also, it sucks because that's the DI car where I don't really totally understand the torque management, but we could try. But if this one is the, it's not the LY6, it's square port injection. Oh, okay. So it does have, I can definitely mess with that. Yeah, some of that later on heavy duty stuff is still port.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's late. It's the 1500 would have been DI, but this is
and some of the really heavy duty trucks are port up to like 18 or 19 because they're like, this is not going to be reliable.
Yeah.
This stuff isn't reliable. But yeah, I could show you videos. In like 2010, I had a G8 GT with a Magnuson. It would chirp fourth. You know, it would rip every gear. It was retarded. Like I could do a burnout and just grab, and it would shift up into sixth.
Nice.
And yeah, it was. I mean, you could stomp it in sixth gear at 60, and it would go second and just rip. So it didn't do any of the confusion stuff at all, and that was only really 2 years after they came out. I had an 08 G8 GT.
That was tuned, or just the being in a car?
In factory, it would shift flare. On like the 2.3, it would get confused in an intersection and you couldn't go anywhere. And then it would go, ooh, bang. And you're like, what is that? But that was stock.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. They're so shitty stock. Like 6-speed Camaros and stuff, they're really bad. I've done a couple of the paver dudes, like when they just came out, like 2012, 2013, 5th gen Camaros, sorry. I'd done tunes on the engine and not picked up much power, but then I would tune the transmission, and the one guy picked up like 2.5 seconds at the quarter because his trans was so bad.
Oh, wow.
Just transmission. Wow. Like I picked up like 5 horsepower. I was like, this is a race car factory. But yeah, the transmission would flare and not get into the one gear you wanted, and yeah, it would get pissed. Anyway, I mean, in 2010, I had a 6-speed that would just rifle gears, and I think I put 80,000 miles on that car. 50 of it was with a blower.
Yeah,
and I was not nice to it. I did a GPS. I think I have videos of me doing like 185 from a stop on 78. Nice. And I did it all the time. Like it lasted no problem. People are like, that's going to go. And I'm like, it shifts really. It's like when the Hellcat was coming out and they talked about the 8-speed. And me and my friends were like, that has to fucking rifle gears or it's going to be an awful car. And then they showed, like, they had audio. They showed like a burnout clip, but not the whole car. And then you could hear it shifting. And I'm like, okay, that car's not going to suck. Because it slams gears. Like, they did the burnout with the blower screaming and grabbed like 4 gears. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually not going to suck.
I mean, that's what, like, I feel like everybody likes to hate on the 10 speeds in the new Fords. And they, like, say they shift too much and stuff. But, like, when I've driven them, they don't bother me at all. Like, I think they're fantastic.
I had a 19.35 10-speed, and I was like, "This is incredible." I think the issue is the shift strategies in the Chevy are terrible, and you can tell when you drive one of those. It's the same transmission, but if you drive a 10-speed Chevy and drive a 10-speed Ford, clear as day, the Chevy is awful. Yeah, my truck, like, you could put it in 4-wheel high and foot brake it to like 3,000 and boost and let it go, and it would just shift. And then, like, when I was towing stuff, you could feel it. It would hit peak torque at like 3,000 and drop like 200 RPM. It was like a Caterpillar tractor trailer.
Yeah, that's what I've driven a bunch of the 3.5 10-speed trucks.
I was like, this is an absolute monster.
Yeah, I mean, the 3.5 seems to have its problems, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all do. And then people say the 2.7's the most reliable. And then I have friends that are like, I have 250,000 miles on my 3.5, and I have another friend that has 320,000 on a 2.7.
Oh, really?
From like 2016. And everybody tells you every one of those trucks is terrible, but.
I know so many that have had cam phaser problems. Like, they rattle like you start them up and they are just the noisiest, rattliest.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. I mean, that's why I leased my 19. It's like a Volkswagen to me. There's too many electronics and a lot of new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a 3-year. I've never done a lease in my life, and I did a 3-year lease on that 19 Ford. I put 30-some thousand on it and never had a single problem, but I'm a lucky dude. I cannot deny that I have good luck, because I say to people all the time, like, I'm like, I do that, but I don't know if you can get away with it. Especially if you're the person where everything breaks, definitely don't do it.
Hey, Brendan, Doug has a pretty hard-hitting question for you.
Doug has a hard-hitting question? Yeah?
Yeah. He wants to know what color underwear you're wearing.
Where is that?
Just for Doug, I didn't wear any.
We haven't been paying attention.
I promised him earlier I wouldn't wear any.
Oh, yeah?
That's why the cat's all over me. He can smell it.
He also wants to know what the Omni's favorite flavor of guardrail is. And only ever tasted one, and that was thanks to Doug. So I'm blocking the corner of the car right now. It's all guardrail. But
yeah, maybe the Ford is too aggressive and it hurts the transmissions. He's saying the Fords break the transmissions and the GM doesn't. Maybe that's because you can bolt on a blower on a Ford and make 800 fucking horsepower immediately.
Yeah, there's that dealership down south that would just do it for you.
Yeah, they're like 42 or 48,000, 700 horsepower warranted truck.
Yep. I've multiple times gone on and done the calculator for what that payment looks like.
Yeah, no thanks. Leasing, like,
I mean, if they leased them, I'd be about that. I turn it at 40,000 miles.
Yeah, I own pretty much everything. So when I did that lease, I was like, this is painful. Whoa, this hurts.
Yeah. I'm
like, where is that cash going? Oh, I bought a new truck. I'm like, how do people deal with, like, some people I know, like, they have $1,000, they pay for 2 cars that are like $800 a month. And I'm like,
I've only had payments once in my life, and that was for that Tesla that I had.
What was that?
That was like nice. I have only had payments once in my life, and that was for that Tesla I had.
Yeah.
And that I had for like 2 years. But like, I offset so much fuel costs with that like, it was a gnarly payment, but the burden of it wasn't as bad because I was driving a ton at the time.
Yeah. I always wanted one of those, but then I'm like, I have a $6,000 Kia that gets 42 on the highway.
Right. And it was $6,000, so it doesn't matter
it
how
costs
much fuel it burns
$6,000, and
either
it's
way.
not going to need maintenance for 10 years.
For me, it was the autopilot. I love just getting on the highway and clicking it in autopilot and not thinking about
Yeah,
driving
that's
for
cool.
2
I mean, I autopilot my Kia anyway.
Yeah.
I'd say
That's
80% of my driving, I'm not even paying attention because everyone's driving so bad anyway. What does it matter?
Yeah, you and everybody else on the road's not paying any attention.
Nah, everyone. I mean, what does it matter? Everyone in front of me is taking 8 seconds to go at a green light. It's not my problem. When I'm the person up front, I'm looking at the other light, like ready to bomb my clutch out of my Kia. I was like, none of you are gonna cut this light. I got you. I do it on my K truck all the time. That thing rips from a stop because the gearing is like a dump truck.
Nice.
It's awesome. You can just scoot on people, and then then they get mad, and then they floor it past you, and you're like, haha.
Is it a 4-speed or
It's a 5-speed.
5-speed?
You see the dyno?
No, I didn't. What did it make?
I'll tell you, it's a 660cc 3-cylinder.
Okay.
And you can guess what that made to the tire.
I'm guessing 38.
Oh,
Oh, at the tire, I might be high.
660cc. I'm gonna say 32.
Those are phenomenal guesses, children. That it made 33 horsepower and 39 foot-pounds.
Nice.
And I did it 3 times in a row, and you can almost not see the line difference. It looks like the same line.
That's awesome.
I mean, when it's making that little power, like, how much variance can it really have?
Yeah, that's true also. Yeah.
So
But
when's
yeah.
it getting a turbo?
It's carbureted, and I kind of like it being quirky.
Don't you have that?
I mean, well, leave the
single
carburetor,
barrel-
it'll stay quirky.
I mean, we have 18 cars. I don't need to ruin every one.
Do you still have that single barrel sniper thing sitting around?
No, I gave it to my friend who has a Corvair
Gotcha.
because it runs
Good
like
bet.
trash with its 80-year-old carburetor. That is a draw-through turbo setup.
Oh, is it a factory turbo
Yeah,
Corvair?
draw-through. So, yeah, he's going to
Yeah,
put the
yeah.
TBI on it at one point.
That's cool.
Yeah, I agree
That would
with
be
that
cool.
too. This guy says he just changes the oil sooner. I feel like that's why 90% of the population hates Kias, because they tell you to do 10K oil changes. If I drive mine 75 miles an hour on the highway, it'll eat a quart in 1,000 miles, and it only holds like 3.
Yeah.
Because you're just RPMing the hell out of it. So I'm like, if you tell people to change it every 10, it's completely out of oil at 6. It only holds 3 quarts.
That's crazy that it only holds 3 quarts.
Well,
That is
it's
a
like
small
it's
can.
4 with a filter, completely filling everything.
Yeah.
But that's
I mean,
it.
that's what I used to send the oil out of this thing to like Blackstone Labs and like be like, how are things going? Like, let's get a trend line going here so I can understand a little bit. And I asked him one time, I was like, would you rather see me run like a better oil and change it once a weekend, or run the cheapest oil I possibly can and change it every night? And he said, unequivocally, run the cheapest oil you can and just change it every day of racing. So I run Kirkland synthetic oil in this. It's the cheapest oil I can find, and I change it after race day Saturday, and I change it after race day Sunday, and like, seems to be fine.
Yeah, because I always tell people who have ethanol cars, like they ask at the dyno, they're like, doesn't this beat up oil? And I'm like, yeah, it does. And they're like, how often should I change it? I'm like, pull the dipstick out and smell it. If it smells like vodka, you should change it. If it smells like oil, you're probably fine. Because you can, I mean, that's what, too, after a while, people's oil pressure hot goes from 30 to like 15. I'm like, when you pull that drain plug, it's going to come out like spring water. It's going to have nothing left. But then you'll know why. What do they say here?
Yeah, we have a newer BMW, and they claim like 15,000 miles on
No.
those things. And after years of rod bearing failure in their motors, I'm like,
It's probably
every
DI,
5,000,
Yeah, because I've had
Yeah.
people make fun of like the Kias for consuming oil, and I'm like, do you drive a 2016 Chevy Silverado?
right?
You want to tell me how much oil that eats? Probably not. You probably don't want to have that conversation with me.
Yeah. I would say it eats its entire oil capacity every oil change. It's how you keep it fresh. You just throw a new filter on every 5,000 and keep going.
Yeah, I do that sometimes because sometimes if I'm driving it like 90 miles an hour for a while, it'll consume. And then if you're consuming enough and you're putting fresh stuff in all the time, I'll do the same thing. I'll only swap a filter when I get to that point because the oil always looks new.
It's crazy. Like my car, after 8 hours of tracking, my oil is like black, looks like diesel oil. Like it's gross. I mean, granted,
sure.
it's a high junkyard motor. I paid $150 for it. His motor, now he has a lot of oil cooler on. I don't have any oil cooler at all. He has a lot of oil cooler on the Aspen, and it's a brand new crate motor. But like after 8 hours of track time, it literally still can't read the dipstick. It's so clear. It is incredible the difference in what happens to the oil.
I mean, my oil capacity is also 16 quarts.
Wow.
I have a lot more oil to make dirty. So it takes a lot more fuel to do that.
That's what was kind of funny. Like the G8 was designed for extended oil changes. It'd be like a low maintenance family car. It takes like 8 some quarts.
Yeah.
It has like a huge oil pan. So same thing. It takes longer to dirty it up. I've thought about that though. No one really does oil coolers on LSs. And I thought about that sometime to put like a pretty gnarly cooler on like my Fairmont and just see if the oil pressure is always better or whatever.
Yeah, I just did it on that car because I figured it would give me extra capacity. So when I do suck a little bit of air, it has a little bit more oil ahead of it to push through. So it also has an Accu sump, but it just ended up being a massive oil pan.
My friend's Gen 5 1LE that he tracks, oil temp was around 270 and looks plain awful after every event. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
A lot of those road race Corvettes, they have oil temp built into like the C5 dash. A lot of those guys are like, 300 degree oil temps.
I'm sure
I run 190. It's actually probably too low. In Aspen, it's about 190 degrees. Watch it.
I have a friend that they road race 1.8 turbo, like a Mark IV Jetta, and he said he's seen 350.
It's a turbo car though.
Yeah, and it just keeps.
Yeah.
He's like.
Is that Cody?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, these things don't break, and he said the same thing. Outrageous oil temps and everything, and they survive.
Yeah, I'm sure if I had an oil temp gauge on my car, I would not be happy at the numbers I see. But ignorance is bliss. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always tell people. Like, I used to never even have a trans temp gauge, and I didn't care. You don't want to see it. Just like. A while back, I did some like research and development and tuning with Megasquirt and some other stuff on Ray Barton's engine dyno, and I had no idea who that guy was. Apparently, he's like the godfather of Hemi stuff. But we had 8 widebands on the LS2, a stock LS2, and seeing the difference between the 8 cylinders on 8 widebands will never leave my head. Oh, this is funny. Yeah, Amsoil. I always say it's a cult. I love when people bring up Amsoil. Chris Ortiz. Chris from the internet there, you see it? My favorite is Amsoil guys that say they can go 12K on an oil change and they come in with bad phasers, wondering why.
Yeah. You could be a dealer for them if you give them $20 with your first purchase. Then all of a sudden you're an Amsoil dealer. Like,
yeah, everyone says that. I'm a dealer. I'm like, no thanks. Yeah. I'll have $1 quart of diff fluid. Thanks.
I did start running Amsoil in the transmissional disc because I ate a quaif in it. And like quaif tells you run whatever oil that in the transaxle it calls for. And these call for ATF. So it's like, okay, so I ran ATF in it. And then it ate one, and it's like clearly a lubrication failure. And I asked Quaif about it, and they were like, "Oh, for endurance racing, you should not be running ATF." They were like switched to like, they were like pretty adamant that like they were like run a high quality like synthetic gear oil.
I would have put Wolf's Head 8090 in that thing and called it a day.
Wolf Head?
It's like one of the cheap gear oil grease brands. I like to bring it up, Wolf's Head. But yeah, I say that I had a 2000 Mustang GT with the T45, and it was like a little weird sometimes, and I drained it and put in gear oil, and it was the best ever after. It would be grumpy on a cold day, like you couldn't hammer it until it warmed up a little bit, but man, after that, it was a beast.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any difference in the shifting feel on this switching from ATF to gear oil, which I'm surprised by, but...
Yeah, Chris says T4. I probably have 6 jugs of T4 right outside that door. I bought I buy like 6 or 10 at a shot because we do fleet maintenance, and It's like hot sauce. I put that shit in everything. Because Kia calls for like 0.20. I'm like, no. Nope. Because Rotella T4 is like 15.30 or 40 or something like that.
Yeah.
1540, yeah. But they took the sulfur and stuff out of it a couple of years ago, so everyone's like butthurt about it.
Yeah.
And it has like low sulfur content or low zinc content.
Yeah,
too.
it looks like honey and it's fine.
And it works. Yeah, it comes in gallon jug or 5-quart jugs, so it's the best thing ever.
It goes in the crankcase, and that's all I care about.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, or not Walmart's, Costco's like their normal oil is all synthetic, but their diesel oil is not synthetic.
Interesting.
And so it's super, super cheap. Like I forget what it was, but Costco's 1540 non-synthetic is so ridiculously cheap that's what I'm just gonna start running that.
My friend Mike Diano posts that. I don't have a Costco membership, but he always like buys a ton of them on sale and posts. He's like, these are $5 a quart or $5 a gallon right now. Yeah, T4 and everything. I had people tell me that T4 was bad because it's meant to clean up diesel particulate and it like absorbs it, so it absorbs. I'm like, ethanol ruins every oil. Who gives a shit? Might as well put cheap stuff in there. You don't need to ruin Amsoil with your ethanol. Just put some garbage in and ruin that. Yeah, I never understood that. Like, people yank the yard motor that runs and drop it off at their machinist friend, and then I'm 5 dyno pulls in and it has 5 pounds of oil pressure, and I have to break it to him.
Yep.
Yes, regular oil.
I've done swaps for like 2 or 3 different people that had their motors gone through, and they always fail. And it's like you said, it's always on the dyno. And I'm like, don't touch it.
Don't fucking
throw a cam in it. Don't change the bearings. Drive it for another 100,000 miles. Stop.
I had a guy do like a brand new 408 build, and then it has an external oil filter, and he swapped the line, so it had 0. He had no oil pressure gauge, and he never checked it when he started it, but I had to throw a ton of running airflow in it to make it idle, and then every hit I had to like double the running airflow to keep it idling. And I'm like, dude, this crank is dragging. Like, the airflow is outrageous what I'm putting in here. And then they screwed, they took the fuel pressure gauge off and put it on the oil filter housing. Absolutely 0. Wow. And then they're like, oh, my in-outs are swapped. And I'm like, why didn't you do that with a $200 4.8? Holy shit, guys. Come on. Anyway. Oh, anybody have any road race questions? I think we just babbled for like an hour.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
Does anyone have like road race particular questions? I feel like this happens every now and then. Like I'm like, ask questions, and people are like, I love your videos. Like they don't ask questions. I'm like, that's awesome and thank you, but ask a question. I'm turning on my AC. It's getting warm in here from me blowing hot air.
I have another Teams Lemons car here that I'm helping out that's right up your alley, Matt. It's a 2-liter ABA with a 16-valve head on it.
Oh, boy.
With a GT35-ish, I think. They don't really know. On a Mega Squirt.
Ah, that's Jamie's thing.
Yeah, well, since you're a Mega Squirt guy, if you get that weird late-night text message from Harry, you might want to ignore it, you know?
I understand. I'd like to mess with it. I did she's been going to a lot of car shows the last 2 years, and I have done more turbo VRs than I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, I've tuned more than I've seen, like, the last year. One was on, I've never done ECU Masters, but last year I tuned, my friend has an imported R33. That's how I know about the patch harness. Okay. And I tuned that, and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. And then the other guy had a VR6 that already ran. Luckily enough, like, most of those cars already ran. They had bases in them. So I just hit the up arrow a bunch on the dyno until people were satisfied. But yeah, it wasn't bad. The thing I don't like a lot of the ECU Master stuff, but it's kind of cool that it has like a live running data log in the corner. You can make the windows as big as you want, which also makes it kind of suck. I don't like it. But you can do like a running data log. You can make a dyno pull and just hit pause, and the rest of the stuff keeps running. And then you can like drag through. I don't know. It's part of that's kind of neat. Part of it I don't really like. People are asking.
Yeah,
about
luckily this one has a solid base tune, so
yeah,
it's running and driving currently.
I'm like, if it starts and idles, we're gonna be pretty far into it already. People keep asking about Trailblazer intakes. Oh, he's talking about micro records. He's joking. What's the fastest anyone's gone with a Trailblazer intake? I need an achievable micro record. I don't know. I would ask Squirrel Tune. Squirrel Tune's probably gone 680s with one with a 4.8. He's ridiculous. Jack Roberts.
See that one guy asked about my trans. I'm an F23, which is the base model trans. The F35 is the Cobalt SS trans. Apparently the F35 came factory with an LSD, but they have shear pins in them that like to shear themselves off really easily. The F23s are pretty good, so I have the Quafe ATV in the F23 trans.
So you have a differential that costs more than your entire drivetrain swap.
Yes, $150 engine, $75 trans, $1,000 diff.
I'm looking at, because my Mustang has a spool, because I did not know what I wanted to do with it, and it has 35 spline axles. And the only company that makes like a 35 spline true track is, what the hell is the name? I can't remember the name. Anyway, it's $1,450. So I won't drag my tires around corners.
Yeah.
But it's kind of annoying. I go to the gas station, I pull up to a pump at 1 mile an hour, and the car's like, and everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, I feel like a jerk, so thanks for looking at me like I'm a jerk. I definitely feel like an asshole. And then I have like a school bus turning radius because I'm dragging everything all over. I'm like, I'm probably going to end up buying this stupid $1,400 diff.
That's what, like, when the Quafe failed on me, it like locked itself up, and I had a spool basically. And I was like driving at the end of that day, and it was fast. I mean, the car was hooked up. I was on a tear. And then I went to pull it onto the trailer, and I'm like, why is this thing like hopping? Like, and like making weird chirping noises. And then like I was super tired and Raceworks. I woke up the next day and I was like, there's only one answer to this. That diff has to be shot. So I can pull the engine and trans out of this thing in like 45 minutes. I pulled it out and pulled it apart. Sure enough, it was all chewed up. But it made me think that I don't think axles will last if I just like go to a spool in this thing with the way we drive for 15 hours. But I kind of want to build a transmission with a spool for the hill climbs and do like a shorter gear set, like just a cheap weld diff and a short gear set, and build 2 transes and then just swap transmissions between races.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing, it sucks because I can be like rolling at like 5 miles an hour forward, and if I turn the wheel, the car will stop. It's so much drag. I'm like,
you realize how horrible it is when you try to push a car around that has a spool.
I know,
like,
dude, cars break on the dyno all the
downfall.
time, and we have to try to push them on trailers. And yeah, you're pushing it, and at like 15 degrees, the car stops. I'm like, I hate this. I hate you.
I see that one guy asked, would 315 squared be good for a larger 2600 or a larger be good for a 2,600 pound car? I mean, the only downside, it's a lot of tire. The only downside I know to like that much tire is maybe you might struggle to get heat into it, would be one issue. But I mean, depending on your tire compound, like that's what some guys suggested to me, that my tires were a little wide this weekend at the Hillclimb, being on a Hoosier A7, that like I just am not going to get heat into it being that wide on this light of a car. But if you're doing like longer stints on track, you will get heat in it. So the only other downside I know of is that like the way it was explained to me is, if you have bad alignment settings and you're on a narrow tire, you can kind of get away with it. Like you won't really notice if you're a 1/10 of a degree off on your toe or something like that with a narrow tire, you won't really notice it that much. If you have a massive tire and you're 1/10 of a degree off, you'll really feel that bad alignment setting. So your setup and tune, alignment has to be really good the wider you get on the tire.
Well, that and also you're going to get like tram and all that. Like if that car is going to be driven on the street and you're on 315 squares, like if you're on anything other than really nice
all the
tarmac,
crowns, right? It's going to want.
It's going to run every crack in the road. Also, you got to look at rotational mass. So like, if you don't really need to, like, that's a pretty light car in my opinion, since that thing back there weighs 3,200 and it's on a 275, and I would not say it has traction issues. Is it really worth the extra weight of the wheel and the tire and blah 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 to go to something that wide? Now, if they're sitting there and they look awesome, then yeah, right. Very fair.
Explain to me what I could do to make my K truck faster. Did you ever see? I love walking up to it, and the tires are like this. I think it has.
I would say like it's got a really good center of gravity too, right? Because the motor's like down
You
in
ever
the
see the
chassis
video
and
where the
the
guy's
cab
doing
weighs.
donuts and it goes to flip and it just has so much low end that it just falls
It just
back
stands
onto its
up,
top.
yeah.
It goes up to like you're like it's done and it goes flop and it comes back down.
Maybe we
guess
should
what
start a
that thing
Hillclimb
weighs?
class of just K trucks.
Oh, someone made like a time attack one with a stock motor.
Oh,
Yeah.
It
really?
has aero and everything and 30 horsepower. Yeah.
I was pulling windshields for Dodge Omnis today out Harry's You Pull It. And like I got to the first Dodge Omni, I'm like, like somebody put this thing on like space saver spares to send it to the junkyard. And I got to the next one, I was like, no, these things just had 165s. I'm used to seeing it on 245s, 275s.
Yeah, it's
But they had
funny.
165s from the factory. They're like that wide.
Yeah, the ones I have 12-inch rims on that. And then it's got to be 165 or smaller. They're extremely narrow.
I mean, that's what original minis. I think my dad would upgrade them to 10-inch, like 10-inch by 5-inch rims or something like that.
Yeah, that's a big. They sell like
Yeah.
big wheel and tire
Yeah.
combos, and some guys
Yeah.
are going to a huge 15. They have to do like a 2-inch lift to fit a 15-inch wheel. Huge rim, 15s.
Is the K truck disc brake in the front and drum in the back, or
Correct.
yeah? Oh man, it's got performance potential right there.
Ooh,
Those
disc
brakes.
Discs.
I mean, I'm still drum brakes in the back of this thing. I mean, they're the Cobalt drums. We cut the hubs off the Cobalt and welded them to the trailing arm for this, so they're bigger wheel bearings and bigger drum brakes and everything. But it's still drum brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no weight back there.
Guess what the K truck weighs? I weighed it at a scrapyard that has 20-pound increment.
12
You in it or
quarter.
without you in it?
Without me, I always like to weigh them because then you know,
Yeah.
like if a driver's in it or whatever.
I'm gonna say 1080.
1140.
Wow, it
Well,
was
I'll go
it was
down.
1580 with a full tank.
Oh,
Ah, damn.
You guys are
I'm
shooting
actually
low.
surprised it's that heavy.
Make me feel bad.
Is it a 4-wheel drive one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a permanent
yeah.
4-wheel drive, and yeah. I pulled the drive shaft out of it and dynoed it on the rear tires.
Oh, nice.
Chris, no
We'll
dump
do a
bed,
burnout.
no care. I know. Chris, did you know they make a scissor lift bed too?
That's the one you got to get.
Yeah,
Scissors
the
and
scissor
dumps
lift.
and everything.
With the side
It
dump.
lifts the bed over the roof line. I was like, I don't need that, but I want it.
Oh, I feel like that'd be so useful around the house. Like you need to work on your gutter or something, just back up, scissor up. You got yourself a little working platform.
Yeah,
right
go
there.
up, cut power lines, laugh, leave. I'm the only one that has intrusive thoughts like that.
Or the only one that says them, either way.
Yeah. It comes out. I don't have a good filter. I remember like we went to orientation for my kid, like going to school over here, and the parents are like, saying nice things to each other, and I would just blurt stuff, and Jamie's like,
Go home.
I'm like, I'm just saying what I'm thinking. She's like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought they would laugh. She's like, they're not. It wasn't funny. I'm like, I thought it was funny. Oh, what I wanted to do was I think I want Tom to make a hitch. Because the muffler is like the whole back. But people have made like a hitch that attaches to the solid rear axle or the bed underneath. I just think it'd be funny to tow my small trailer with the small truck.
With a hitch that attaches to the axle.
Yeah, because there's almost nothing in because it's a flip gate, and then the entire under the back is a giant canister muffler. Because the engine, transmission, and diff are all one piece.
Oh,
So you have to like put it somewhere funny, and I've seen someone put it
yeah.
on the diff.
Interesting.
Yeah, like the beam.
I mean,
or
not
whatever.
terrible. It's like a tractor. I mean,
Yeah, it's basically a John Deere Gator.
but
But
better, 'cause
cheaper
it's not
and
20
more
grand.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And has like windshield wipers and crap.
Yeah, it's way more functional. Because I have friends that bought like what's Yamaha, like a Rhino?
Yeah, right.
It's like a 2-seater with like a 2x2 bed. and it was like $18,000. I'm like, oh, what the hell? This K truck was $7,000, and you can drive it up the road and get rocks and come home and go to AutoZone and dump the rocks out and drive it in the snow, and it has heat. You can get ones with AC and everything too.
Yeah, I saw like the auto AC ones came in, like they're more popular now, but
yeah, it's only like I would not want to drive an auto one. It's barely enough with the 5 ratios. I hear there's 4-speed versions. They're the same as mine. They just don't have 5th.
There was a horse farm next to me growing up that I remember. I mean, this was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They started buying them instead of like Gators because they're like, yeah, we can legally run on the road around, and they were all 4 speeds.
Oh, Chris says they make tow ones that have a flatbed that drops flat on the ground.
Oh, like
that'd
truck
be awesome.
almost.
That's sick. If you race motorcycles, there's probably nothing better than a stupid K truck.
Oh, I get.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
My buddy Doug and I get in arguments with people all the time that like think that trucks need to be 4-wheel drive and lifted. I'm like, what is the purpose of a truck? It's to have a truck bed and put things in it. Lowering it makes it easier to put things in the truck bed. Like, the truck doesn't need to be off-road.
No, well, that's what's funny. Like, I take the Kia with the trailer and shoveling mulch and stuff in and out. It's like 8 inches off the ground. And I've picked up like, what the hell are they called? Like the bathroom set with the sink and everything. What's
Vanity.
A vanity. Yeah. I've picked up a bunch of vanities and brought them home. And I always say to the guys at like Home Depot or Lowe's, I'm like, I will roll up with my big rig. Just, stay here. And I park it front with the Kia and I get out and they're still staring into the parking lot. And then they laugh, but both of us load it with like a 6-inch loading height. And then the damn thing is like behind my Kia. It doesn't go higher than the Kia. And I can get like, other times I've gotten like 36 miles per gallon with 4 people in the car and the back filled with tools and 2 LS motors in the trailer and still getting the 30s. Yeah. And I'm like, and then you drive around, you see people with unloaded F-150s. You're like, good job with your truck, bro.
That's my buddy Doug is that lowered NBS Silverado, and yesterday I picked up another one of those Vidmar cabinets like I was showing you, those big tool chests. Yep. And like to load it, we just set it over onto the tailgate and then just flopped it in, and like we didn't have to pick it up or anything because the center of gravity was already in the truck bed. It was so easy. Like, had you taken a bigger truck, you would have had to pick that thing up. But they're like a couple hundred pounds. They're not light.
Oh, this guy says he's 6'8". Yeah, I don't even know how you would get in the doorway, dude. I'm 5'8", and I have to put in my knee first. If I sit and then try to slide my knees in, no.
No, yeah.
Did you
I
watch
have to
that
tell
video?
people before they get in, I'm like, you have to shove your left knee in and then sit down.
Did you watch that video?
You could buy the crew cab one.
What's that?
Yeah, the crew cab.
You could buy the crew cab one and move the seat back.
Oh,
if you really
did you
need
send
a
me
K
that,
truck.
Harry?
What, the crew cab one?
Someone sent me a crew cab
know.
with the bed, but it was completely destroyed.
Did you watch that Cletus video of the little like mini truck?
Yes,
that the guy
I
brought
want to
them?
know how the engine's
so
attached
well.
to the transmission stuff.
So last night, I'm not joking, Matt. I spent 5 hours trying to find a picture of how the what transaxle assembly
Tom and I
has.
went to pick up Jamie's truck from my friends, and we were like, how is that? And we're going to go through all of his YouTube. So we were having the exact conversation you were having in your head.
So some of them have like, you'll see in a picture that the ones they put LS3s in those. Like for some reason LS3s. But they have like a billet bell housing with what looks like a hydraulic pump assembly on the back. And then like
it has like skid steer drive
CV.
units.
Yeah, it has something real. Like it doesn't look like it's a transaxle. Like it looks like it's a single gear, maybe with like a reverser in it.
What is
but
that
I think
guy's
the
YouTube
bike motors
channel?
are just hooked up.
Chat.
Oh, what was his name?
F's in the chat.
Liam or something? No.
I want to like ask him on his YouTube.
Yeah, fair.
Only if he makes a video with him going like this, with red text everywhere. That's the only way I'll watch it. I don't watch videos unless they're holding their face or have. Anyway.
Yeah, Harry was ignoring me last night when I was sending him the mini twin Hayabusa trucks I was finding for like 8,500 pounds in the UK. I don't know why we're not importing them right now.
It's just
Liam
like
Liam
it's just
Doran
like,
was his name.
why don't they sell K-truck style trucks? Because people won't buy $75,000 trucks. And then,
Right.
obviously, you both probably know about the new Hilux. It's like $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a
Brand
shame.
new Toyota
Yeah.
truck. It's basically a larger K-truck, 10 grand, brand new. They'll never sell that.
I would
here.
say 70% of the people that need a truck could literally get by with a K truck.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty cool. I have two neighbors, and then including me, they all have like 50s Chevy pickups. And like you see them like loaded full of firewood and stuff because they're like, yeah, I needed a truck, but like I didn't want to like buy a new truck. So I have this cool old truck. And then they take the loads. I'm like, that's awesome. Buy like a $20,000 vintage truck.
Oh, I'm sorry. I found the guy. Liam
There he is.
Doran.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
I bought a '74 Hilux to move, so.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Liam.
Shut up.
So those trucks are called Auto Grass Class 7s is what they are. Is like the racing organization and the
I'm
class.
sad
'cause
he
I'm
has like
being serious.
highlighted text and himself shrugging in all these videos. He's doing this in every
The facial
video with
expression.
yellow outlines. I almost don't want to watch it. But I want to ask this guy to like show me how that drivetrain works, Chief.
Yeah.
I'll
Did you see
comment
it went,
on all
like,
his videos.
10?
I'll talk a bunch of shit so he reads it, and then at the end I'll be like, please tell me about your drivetrain.
Send us a picture. Is it sprockets or is it
Show me a video
transaxle? What
like
is it?
panning around
Yeah.
and explaining it without talking about losing your shop.
But yeah, I couldn't believe how well, like, that was a big dude, and Cletus is obviously a big dude, and they fit well in those things.
Well, that's what he was saying. He's like, I don't know how I'm gonna fit, and that guy was like, I fit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's a
was-
gorilla.
Yeah,
He's a big guy. He was just as tall as Cleet, and he's like, 50, 75 pounds heavier from the look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
And
I'm
here
gonna
they are
have to
trailing arm in the back.
I'm gonna have to
which is
watch
weird.
all that.
and they are trailing.
Yeah, they're all the pictures I found. They're trailing arm, which doesn't seem like it should be that performance oriented, but they are.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how that's hooked up. Because almost the one clip I saw, it almost looked like the engines were opposing.
They're spun,
Yeah.
so the intakes are facing each other,
Yes.
and then they're offset. Yeah, I
said
figured that
to
much
Tom,
out.
and he's like, nah, they were
Yeah.
both forward. I'm like,
No,
I know motorcycles, and those
No.
engines
Yeah, they're
were
flipped.
flipped. And
Yeah,
he
so
was
the
like,
sprockets
eh.
are towards the center of the V of the two.
Yeah, they're
motors.
both outputs
Yeah.
are in whatever differential are there.
Yeah,
I'm like, what is that, a V drive for like a boat? What is going on in
Right.
there? Because people do that for. I've tuned a few of those monster truck, like what a mini. I forget what they call them. Not a real monster truck, but so they have like an LS and a Power Glide and a V drive and a
with
diff,
the V drive
and-
box.
Yeah, so
yeah.
the engine's flipped, and then the V drive flips it back around. Yeah. Anyway, transfer case.
Well, think about it. With those two motors flipped like that, one's spinning the wrong way.
That's what I was like.
So, like, I'm like, I need to know. Someone take an overhead picture of this setup.
That's
It's
why I
bothering
was like,
all
dude,
of us in America.
I'm like, the motors are in different spots. He's like, I don't think so. I'm like, look at the video. Because the one guy's like
Yeah.
adjusting the idle or something on him. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
go back and look at just that. That's the moment I was like, bro, the air boxes are on different sides. The trumpets are this way and this way.
Yeah.
I'm like, so how is it doing this? Because even like we talked about, if it's spinning a hydraulic pump, how is it spinning it in both directions?
Right. And I don't think it is. I think that was some type of like coupler assembly. Like maybe it has like a clutch that it'll, I don't know.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
just the LS3 one. So I assume the motorcycle ones just use their own transmission, but one would be trying to go in reverse the whole time.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah, I
drives
don't
me
get
nuts.
Even if you had like separate drive axles, it can't.
Right.
It would just,
I mean, it'd be fun.
it would round it around. But yeah, oh, here's
like
a video
5 minutes.
five days ago that says, I taught Cletus how to wheelie. I'm just going to go and I'm going to spam all of his comments. I will make notice me. It's like Mad Max.
Yeah.
Witness me. I'll go in there and say the most ridiculous things. It's kind of like a mud truck. I guess they're all called mud trucks or whatever. But yeah,
Oh,
they have
yeah, I know what you mean. mega trucks or whatever, like those ones.
Mega.
They jump and shit.
He
Yeah,
called it
mega
a
truck.
mega truck. But
Yeah.
yeah, it has like a V drive in it. And it's all
Yep.
flipped. And it had a power glide. It's so funny how small a power glide looks in the center of one of those monster trucks.
Yeah,
looks
get
like
rid
it's
of the
just
tail
shorten them
housing
down.
and the bell
Yeah,
housing.
the tail housing, you chop the output shaft.
Yeah, it's literally, it's like this big.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
smallest thing in the center of the truck. Like the Heim joints are bigger than the power glide.
Yeah. I think
I
they're
thought it
18
was
inches
just
from
a
bell housing
I
to
thought
tail.
the engine went to the transfer case on some of those. It's so tight.
Yeah.
But no, there's a power glide in there. All right. Well, does anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah,
Are we
guys, jeez.
running out? I'll zip through here again. Oh, people were asking about Trailblazer intakes. Well, I'll tell you what, on a Gen 3 intake car, like a Don't BS Me build, if it makes 500 horsepower flat, and you put a Trailblazer, if it's a Gen 3, 3-bolt, 72 millimeter throttle, and you put a Trailblazer on with the matching 84 to 92 millimeter, it's at least 10%. So you'll just bolt on 50 horsepower at 500 wheel. And it'll make that everywhere.
Is there a Dorman version of it that's good, or does it have to be GM? Since
People
we're
have
talking
talked about it. There's a Dorman intake that's just weird. It's like,
Yeah.
it looks like a Hemi intake. Like it just has the flat. It looks like an LS2 that's been filled, like a
I've
balloon.
seen that one. Yeah.
I have never done anything with that. I don't know about the other. Dorman makes like LS1 and LS6 intakes, and people have
And
brought
LS6
those.
intakes. Yeah.
People have brought those, and they perform exactly like I thought they would. Matt, did you get my shifter installed yet? I'm sorry, Joe. I busted my 80E, so I will soon have the perfect opportunity to swap it out, and I absolutely will. It was funny, I changed my gears in that car, and like 2 days before I changed my gear, that guy gave me the... Did you see that? It's called gear keg instead of beer keg, and it threads onto a gear, like a classic gear squirter bottle that you dump half of it out everywhere. But in
The
the
gear
diff.
oil. Yeah.
You screw
Yep.
that on and you apply air. It has an air chuck and a valve and everything, and it has a pressure valve. So if you overfill the bottle, it doesn't explode like a grenade. It relieves the pressure. And I put like 25 pounds in it, and it shot all the 1 quart into the diff, clean as a whistle, in like 10 seconds.
That's
I
nice.
was like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. But he sent me one, and he 3D prints it all.
Oh, nice.
There's an answer to the tool that you used the wrong way. Brendan just
Me?
put all of his fluid in pump-up sprayers.
Garden sprayers, $9 garden sprayers. I got one for every fluid in the shop.
That's a good idea.
I mean, they're awesome. I bleed brakes with them and everything. The pressure bleeder.
I've heard about that. People just using the pump things to bleed the...
Yeah, I just use a garden sprayer. The brake fluid eats the seals eventually, but it's like $9. You just throw it out, and there's like a whole, you can't see because of the water. There's a whole like hanging section of garden sprayers with chemicals in them.
Thanks for the shout out, Gear Keg. There he is.
There
He's
you
watching. I remembered the name of it and all. Man, I'm sharp. I turned 40 the other day. My brain still works.
Oh.
I don't even have grays yet. I'm disappointed. I thought I'd be cool salt and pepper dude by now.
I already have.
I got it. I'm only 38 or 39, and I got the salt and pepper. So
I have friends that hit pretty early, and I'm like, I want that, so I'll probably never get it. I'll just go.
It hasn't
white.
made me any more money, or made me win races, so I can't really endorse it yet.
A friend of mine's like totally bald and has a salt and pepper beard, and I'm like, I want that. He's like, I'm like, I'm not insulting you. I think it's cool.
I think the Gear Keg guy needs to sponsor Scope Creep Racing. I mean, we go through a lot of fluids. So I'm just saying. Just saying.
He will. He seems like a cool.
Hit
He
us
wrote
up.
a nice letter.
Nice.
And he was like, if you show this, that's okay. If you don't show this, that's okay too. Thanks for doing what you do later. Bye.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm changing my gears. And then I was like, I thought it would fit a different bottle, but it's literally just to do the gear oil.
I mean, anymore though, those bags are like the Amsoil bags or whatever are pretty great for gear oil.
I bought
Yeah, if you're-
Valvoline bags for.
Or Valvoline, that's what it is.
I put gear oil in the
Amsoil
CD09
too.
in Jamie's BMW, and I bought
Yep.
the bags and crushed them in, and I'm like, this is awesome. But then he sent me that, so then I bought gear oil for like $3 a quart, and then I blew the 2 quarts into my diff, and I was like, man, this is the easiest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I just reuse the Amsoil bags, just like a grandma with her Ziploc bags. I just hang them up and let them
I've
drip
heard
dry
of
and
that
refill
too.
them.
I've heard of Jeep
Yeah.
guys on a trail filling a Ziploc bag
Yeah.
And putting it in
bolting
the gears.
diff
Yep.
and just letting it chew it up. I'm like,
Yep.
that's smart. If you have some garbage in there or not any lube, you're screwed. It's definitely going to eat a
Yeah.
Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
It does not care. Yeah.
I have to do a wheel bearing and an 8.8 Ford. I should get a garden sprayer.
Yeah. 100%.
Looking into an option for gallon jugs. Unfortunately, they're not standardized. Yeah, that's why I was like, I wonder what this will
Lids,
fit.
Yeah.
Because I have one of those pumps and it does suck. And you have to change the thing and get covered in ATF while you're trying to... It has like 3 different size screw-ons. And it's slow as hell. His was like... I was like... And it just came flying out. I was like, this is rough.
He'll have to just 3D print a bunch of adapters. So you just buy like the 20 adapter kit with it for
Yeah,
every
unfortunately.
thread
wonder if
pitch
you could
out
just
there.
do
Yeah.
like a TPU like tapered plug that you just wedge in instead of it actually screwing on.
And expand it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Silicone
just
plug.
wedge it in.
Oh, did you ever see one of those drain wizards? You shove it in like a drain and it expands and sprays down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, on the
yeah,
garden
one of those
hose.
that works
Yeah.
in reverse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan should finish.
Well, you do that and you use the air pressure so it expands the bladder first. And then when it hits a certain PSI, it starts pressurizing the bottle.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Brendan, Marlene wants an Oriole close-up. Is that the cat?
The cat.
I'm a good guesser. Shove him in there.
He's the shop cat. I'm usually inside by 7:30, so he's super stoked that I'm just like chilling out here in a chair.
Nice. Matt, if
He
you were
kills all
doing
the
a
mice.
1,000 horsepower Colorado today, would you do it differently? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like, here's the funny thing. I feel like the just turbo only 1,000 horsepower is really hard to hit. Because I've done a bunch of cars where people had like Don't BS Me style, and they had an S400, like an S480 billet, base model, nothing fancy, make 990. And then they build a 408 and they get like an 8102 or something else. It makes the same power. Except it was expensive and laggier now.
Oh,
So I've probably done a dozen cars this year where the people wanted to step up from like the stupid Don't BS Me build with what I call a Gen 3 7875, the one with the big S400 ass end. He calls it like a next gen 2.5. All of that's, I don't know.
2.5.
I call it a 3.0. If it's the big dog with the 121, I think, AR, those things will just slam out 8 and change. Some 880, some 840, just all day. I mean, I've had some make in the 9s, but then like you go to something else and it doesn't clear that very much. So I'll see how I have 6762s on my Mustang and it's a 4.8, and Brian Nutter spec'd the cam and intake and everything to swing. So I'll be impressed, not calling Brian Nutter a liar, but I rarely see anything RPM. I think I've only done a few cars with like homemade or very tall intakes, which is kind of funny because you would think tall is not good for high horsepower. But I've had LSA cars, if they're not overspinning the blower, will make power like, some of them make power to 7,200. My G35 made peak power at like 7,150, and then I overspun the blower to make more torque, and then it would nose at 6,800 because it just couldn't flow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it was neat because I was like, damn, it clears 7,000. Holy cow. Like, I couldn't believe it. And then I overspun it, and I picked up like 50 foot-pounds everywhere below 5,000, and then it was like, at 60, like high sixes.
That blower wasn't ported though, was it?
No, it wasn't ported, and it had a 92, like all stock.
Yeah. Do you think if with a ported blower, do you think you could, like, it'd keep going?
We're going to
even
do
being
one.
overdriven a little bit?
So the green, do you see the green 135 I tuned? My
Yeah,
friend Sean's car? It's his wife's
Yeah.
car, actually. She hammers that thing. They are swapping like a Kong export on it or something.
Okay.
Like
Cool.
yeah, he's getting rid of the one blower and putting on a ported different. So we're gonna see. But I think that peaked very high too. It was like in the 7,000 range.
So what do you think the choking point is that's keeping those builds below 1,000 horsepower?
We should
Cylinder
ask Chris
heads or-
Ortiz.
Yeah,
We should
fair.
ask Mr. Ortiz here because he does more of that, I think. But I'm not sure what it is because I've had some cars that are fairly simple smash out like 1150 with like the classic large S400. And then I've had cars struggle to make over 800. And I'm like, is it all just the additive? Like, is cam timing and small things incorrect? Like, and then if so, what the hell is it? I never looked into it enough. Like, I'm like, that's too much headspace. I'll just slam some junk and whatever it does, whatever.
Make 800 and do burnouts.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to do. I'm very interested to see what the Force Performance 85 millimeter with the big back end does on the Fairmont if I don't shatter my 6L80. If it starts making big power easily, I'll probably swap out the trans because the 6L80 is worth way more than a built 80E in my opinion. The 6L80 you could probably sell tomorrow for $6,000. And the
Because everybody
4L80
blows
is
them
just...
up.
What's that?
Everybody blows them up. There's none left.
So especially like, because Cameron sent me that and he did like a... Who knows? It's not stock. But I think at some horsepower limit, I'm going to get nervous. I don't want to break it and send it to him. I'd rather send him a good one and have him send me a good 80E.
Sure.
But it's kind of, I don't want to abandon it. So if it makes good power, I might turn it down and just get the shift strategies good and then see what happens. But if anything's going to crack like 1,000 or 1,100 on single turbo, I think it would be that. Because Tom and I have plans to make like, normally we do truck manifolds and I do the most awful stuff. But we want to do like equal length inlet, and Monkey Fab sent me a billet T6 twin 2.5 inlet. And yeah, we're just going to do the best we can to see how that does. So I would be blown away if it makes huge power on low boost because that would be awesome. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Some of the guys have fairly big engines and turbos and it just doesn't do it. I think twins would do better. I feel like you can only get so much out of a single. But then I have friends like my friend Carl Pritz just made like 2150 with a single turbo car. But that is that's not real world. It's like a methanol. It has thousands of dollars into small parts. Yeah. He's one of those like radial versus world dudes that goes like 4.0 or 390s. Yeah. And then like the first time he was on the dyno, it torched a cylinder head. So like, I'm like, man, a 6-bolt 1/2-inch head studded Frankenstein cylinder heads, billet sandwich intake, 116 millimeter Pro Mod turbo on methanol. How many things did you damage when that head ate shit? And then how much was it to recuperate to make 2100 again and go to the track to hopefully not do that again? Yeah, I don't know. That's not, I think it would be cool. I'll get back to my subject. I think it would be cool to have an LY6 and do twin 7875s, big guys with V-band inlets, so it chokes it down better for twins. I think something like that would be able to make good power. Chris Ortiz had a 370-inch motor, and I don't know what the heads intake and everything else were, but he had 6973s, Borg Warner S366s, so 6673 billets. And he made, on a fairly stingy Mustang dyno, he made like 1140 and didn't turn it up more than that, but went to the track and turned it up. So yeah, I would love to do, I would do 78, 75s. And I think we have someone willing to do that soon. The only car that I've made, that I spec'd a kit for that made outstanding power like that was a friend of mine has a 565 cubic inch big block. And I spec twin billet 80s with V-band inputs. And Tom made the turbo kit. and non-intercooled on like 50% alcohol pinned my dyno over 1500 rear wheel on like 18 pounds. And then we did more pulls on lower boost, and I made like 1350 on 18 pounds again. And I'm like, why are we losing power? And we looked in the engine bay, and 2 of the plug wires were burned completely off and dangling. So I'm like, this is making
powerful 6-cylinder.
13 and change on 6 cylinders. I was like, it
And
sounds
dragging
like
2 more pistons along for the ride.
I was like, it sounds like it has
friction.
a misfire or something now. Oh yeah, it has completely burned through 2 plug wires. But yeah, that thing threw down. It was, I think, on 8 pounds of boost with a pump gas tune-up, like a laughably low amount of ignition and safe fuel. It had like, it made 850 on like 4 pounds. Because you consider it's like a 600 some horsepower big block.
Sure.
Right.
Even with lower compression and a milder camshaft. But yeah, I think that would make... I have made with that V-band 3-inch inlet 80 millimeter on a single 6-liter, I've made 880, not out of headspace. So you got to imagine like 2 of those probably capable of 2,000 rear wheel on that thing. He says he wants to make that, but I'm like, dude, my dyno only reads 15.
Yeah,
So and
you
he's
can't
never going to
measure it.
floor
Make it all day. Yeah.
He's never going to hit it with that much power.
2,000
yeah, this guy's
to do 1,000.
67, 65s. Do you know what kind of power you make? I'm curious, because here's the thing. I know 3 other people that have the same turbos on a 5.3, and they've made like 1050 on 20 some pounds. And on that other motor and every other setup I had, I put like 32 pounds through it and made 820. I was trying to blow it up the one day, and I made nothing. Oh, wow, 640 on 4 pounds with a 4.8? Really? Is that on ethanol? I'm going to really hate my car if I keep listening to you guys. 640 on 4? That seems unrealistic. I've done single 4.8s with this Jegs converter, like a half of an HD2 kit into a 4L80E, and they make like 840 on 26, 28 pounds. But it's so dumb to have like a 4.8 that runs on 87 and makes 400 something on 87. And then you splash some fuel in it and it makes 840 or 880. Dumb as hell. On 8 pounds? Well, I guess we'll see how much mine sucks in a few days. I gotta put my trans in, and I gotta put that guy's awesome shifter in it because I hate the one I have anyway. Even if I didn't like his shifter, that's not nice to say. Even if I didn't like his, I would swap it out. That's how much I dislike the other one now.
Nice.
This guy says, do you think you're dual plenum? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Richard Holdener tested it, and it did seemingly well. But I could ask people, I said to everybody, they could have it for free. But no one wants to put a dual throttle body setup on, and everyone's scared to do dual drive-by-wire like I had. I'm sure it would do fine because I swapped turbos, cam, engines, intakes, and still made absolutely no power. So the intake probably wasn't doing it. Not that the intake was bad. The intake was probably not causing an issue. I don't think it needs a larger engine. I think it just needs an engine that works. So yeah. Have you measured exhaust manifold pressure on underwhelming big single setup? Seems like a lot for a single. Some of them have had it. I would say that's a good question because most people aren't interested in their back pressure. But the turbo setup, it did gain boost very easily for whatever dome or like 3-port or 4-port we had on it. We weren't asking a lot to make more boost. But it just like they would hit a wall at like 8 and change. Or you'd make 996 3 times in a row like my Colorado would do. You're like, gimme.
4
And
horsepower.
Like,
Yeah.
no thanks. What's shipping on the intake? Where do you live? Just come and pick this thing up. I don't know. I can pack it up and get an estimate, but then I don't want you not buying it after I wrap it.
How were you driving the dual throttle bodies? Was that
I
all
had
Holly?
a dual drive-by-wire with the Holly. The Dominator can do
Okay.
2 throttles. California, they're going to fucking impound that and arrest you if I send that to you. They're going to give you Narcan and put you on the street.
I forget. Did you run it was on twins, right? When you ran that?
Yeah, we had completely segregated turbo setups, intercooler, everything was split.
Was it cross-feeding banks?
Yes.
Though?
And I had
Yeah.
map
Oh,
sensors
okay.
in each side. I had back pressure on both sides, 2 NTK widebands on each side, outlet temperature, outlet pressure, so I could see the temperature and the pressure drop over the core. And then I had one map sensor was doing fueling, and the other 4-bar map was in the other plenum, just for a visual to make sure they were the same. Everything was fine. Back pressure was actually very good, which is the upsetting part. So that's why I just put this dirty ass 4.8 in, and I simplified the setup, and we're gonna see what that does if I don't break my other transmission on the way. All the vehicles are testing. What?
I'm doing that twin turbo M3, and I was wondering if it would be worth the hassle. It'd be pretty cool if you open the hood with that. I mean, I think that's all it's good for, right? It's pretty cool when you open the hood.
Yeah, people are like, this looks great. And I'm like, I don't think it added a lot of complications. It's hard to install. It has fucking things zigzagging on each other. The 2 plenum pieces aren't attached, so you're trying to bolt it on and it wants to fall in every direction.
You got to snake them through each other.
Absolute pain in the ass in every direction.
Yeah,
I hated it. I can't wait to give it to somebody and make it their problem. Oh, this guy, I work at FedEx by you and want me to ask them about your converter? Maybe they could buy me another. It's banged up on the pilot that goes into the crank. I'm probably going to have to file it to make sure it doesn't drag. I was just going to eat it because I doubt FedEx or Jegs will do anything. Because Jegs is going to be like, FedEx broke it. I think I said this earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, FedEx broke it. No, Jegs improperly. Nope, Fed. No, and I'm like, all right, I lost. Whatever. I'm okay with that. I already understand if they smash your shit, they're not. No one's ever gonna take responsibility unless this dude can push someone down a flight of steps and give me $1,000 check. That's cool. But yeah, it was $902, and they played soccer with it in fucking metal boots.
Yeah, that sucks.
Wild.
It was in. People are like, it was packed. I'm like, guys. It was filled with like hard styrofoam. You know how you get like gears where there's a pinion and then they're sandwiched? It was just completely eradicated. And then it looks like someone ran over. The one side was just concave. Like none of that stuff had a chance. And then the pilot and the input, I guess you would call it, were sticking out of both sides. They even took a picture of it for photo delivery proof on my porch. And you can see the hole in the center of the box. They didn't even flip it out of the way for the picture. Oh, man. I'll be there tomorrow and could probably get a Q&A on something. Something about it? I've seen you shape camshafts. What does that mean?
Probably ship.
I don't know. I ship UPS, though, so FedEx doesn't smash them. I guess it depends where you live. When I lived in Allentown, I'd call UPS United Package Smashers. Because whoever my UPS
have great
guy...
luck with UPS.
And then he'd be like, I dropped it off. I'm like, it's not here. And they're like, huh. I'm like, that was $600 of injectors. Maybe we could find them if I put a gun in your mouth. Oh, boy. All right, I think we're done unless people have other questions.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I'm going to shamelessly plug that we're planning on doing a pre-orders of Scope Creep Racing merch here probably in like a month or so. So if people want to go to follow our Scope Creep Racing on Instagram, we'll post about it there.
Where to buy them?
Yeah, we're probably going to do pre-orders, I think. So
that makes sense.
We're trying to get all
previously,
right
a little easier.
People are like, we'll take sweatshirts. We get 45 sweatshirts and nobody buys them. We're like, we're $3,500 into clothing we're not going to wear. Thanks, guys. Yeah, some of that stuff we make everybody pay ahead of time, and then you use that money, obviously. It's a smart way to do it.
Yeah, so follow our Scope Creep Racing Instagram, and we'll post about it there.
All right. Well, I think we're done. Chat has completely slowed down.
We put them to bed with turning left and right to confuse them. Very little burnouts.
The exhaustion from looking.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for being on.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
See you, Eric.
See you later.
Yep.